This is the Bible of the electrogenic cell. It's not just the best book ever written on the subject, it's the only book ever written on this subject. Brought to you by supporters of Christ.
Peace to the peace to the family. Peace to the family. I hope you understand me. These boys be looking crazy when they on campus. Oh. Yo, when I got to my first 100 books, I thought that was such a flex. Now it really is a monstrosity. I know my dad would be proud, though. I know my dad would be proud. Because I got big mountains of books everywhere. And that's how his bedroom, that's the one thing that we all remember. All his children, girlfriends, wives, family, anybody that knew him. Big piles of books everywhere. You get in his car, you got to knock books off the seat to sit down. Only difference between me and him is I wrote all these books. I wrote all these joints. All right, give myself some operating room. Now, I'm trying to start the new classes this week. So y'all need to get y'all need to have your protein book. You need to have those new books ready. Y'all had like a month. Because last time everybody complained, right? Last time everybody complained and said they didn't have time to get their books. This time, and I told everybody, I kind of apologized because it was a lot of it was a lot. And I get it. But that was our first go round. So now, we need to be a little bit more, you know what I mean? Right? So I want to start these two classes. We'll probably start Black's Anatomy class in a couple of weeks. Right? So I just want to add 2 more classes. Right? I want to get to protein and I want to get to the water classes. Right? So I'm trying to structure those out so it'll be nice and clean. How we have, how we have our anabolic and fat class. I want to be able to have the water and the protein class. And I know y'all, I'm getting a lot of good feedback. And shout out to everybody who's putting they little midterms together. Okay. So I get it. Folks feel like, I'm a grown ass man. I'm a grown ass woman. I ain't got no time to be doing homework for Inky. Yeah. I get it. Right. But I appreciate that I'm getting a little more midterm activity right now. Getting a little more midterm activity. So I'm feeling encouraged and inspired. I'm feeling encouraged and inspired. Look at Tika. Not true. Listen. Midterms wasn't looking that good now. Wasn't looking that good. Now it's looking a little bit better. Right? We're getting a little bit more Patreon. I'm seeing, it's piece by piece. They starting to pull, folks putting it together. So that's good. And so I know that people are learning as we continue to go through, double down, triple down, double down, triple down on the information. It's starting to click. It's starting to come together. And that's literally how we learn. Right? That's literally how we learn. Oh my God, YouTube is punishing me. YouTube is punishing me. See, y'all don't have to punish me or say nothing crazy to me or be mad with me. When I set the time for the video and then I'm late and I got to move the time and all that. YouTube punished me by themselves. This is how YouTube chastise you, just in case. There's a variety of ways that YouTube spanks you, right? They spank you. Let me see. Let me make sure. Because they might also be trying to remind me that you didn't turn on the monetization on the video. I sure didn't. Okay, let me turn on the monetization. At least that'll help them to... Come on, YouTube. Come on, YouTube. Stop doing me like this. YouTube, stop doing me like this. All right. So I put on the monetization. So at least that'll help. If you don't turn on monetization, they're not sharing the video. If you come in late, they're not sharing the video. You know what I'm saying? Like anything, they spank you on the booty to let you know you ain't doing the right thing. So at least I shared the video. Look at that. As soon as I share the video, a couple more people start coming in. As soon as I put the monetization on, they start sharing the video a little bit. All right, so that's cool. Everybody that is watching, though, make sure you hit the like. And if you already hit the like, unlike the video and then re-like the video. Like turn, if you hit the thumbs up already, take your thumb off and then put your thumb back on. You know what I'm saying? Like hit it again. So that way we can share the video a little bit. Right. All right. So this is the process of how you learn, though. Right. This is the process of how you actually build neural networks. Right. You build neural networks. the best way to think about building neural networks, there's two ways, actually. There's two ways I like to explain building up neural networks, right? One of them is to look at the pyramid, right? The Great Pyramid in Kemet, right? You lay your cornerstone and then you kind of work around and you build up. You build up. And if you notice, the pyramid is like the base, or what we can see as the base, is square. And as you're going up, it's getting smaller and smaller because it's working towards the apex. So what that means is, as you're getting higher and higher, you have much more of a foundation built. So it's less work required, less energy required, right? Because at the base, just for example, say you might need 100 bricks. As you're going up each level, you might only need 80. Then you might need 60 for that level, 40 for the next level, 20 for the next level, 10, 5, till you finally get to the top where it's just 1, right? So that's one way I like to look at building neural networks. The second way I like to look at building networks is more of an experiential thing. Riding a bike. When you first get on the bike and try to start learning, you know, you got training wheels on, you know, so you kind of never really, you know, so it doesn't really count till the training wheels come off. And when the training wheels come off, it's difficult. You can maybe get a pedal or two in, but you can't really, and it seems super hard and difficult. And as you keep doing it and keep doing it, you get little stretches where you could kind of balance before you tip over. And pretty soon it gets easier and easier as you keep working on it and keep working on it. It gets easier and easier to the point where riding the bike becomes so easy that riding the bike is no longer dangerous. What becomes dangerous is how easy you're able to ride the bike. So you wind up riding the bike, looking down at your phone at the same time. So now you don't have a danger of crashing the bike because you can't balance. You have a danger of falling asleep at the wheel, not necessarily falling asleep, but you know, you checking your text message, or you ran into a car or something, or you got your hands off the, you know, you standing up on the bike doing tricks, or you know, the ease and the comfort, because now you're able to, your muscle memory now is able to do it for you, right? You don't have to put your conscious focus on actually riding the bike. You can do that without thinking about it. You just get on it. You don't even know how you're doing it. You just get on it and go, right? And it's because as you start to accumulate the information in all of the different parts of the brain that's required for you to ride a bike, different neurons from different areas of the brain start making connections. And when those connections are new and they're weak, it's hard to do. Once those connections get old, once those wires get thick, once that electricity running through them gets to a high enough voltage, you know, so to speak, it becomes easy and simple and things start to come together. And once you have a completely connected neural network, now, right, you can start to do other things. So whereas riding a bike, you might start, you know, looking at your phone or doing tricks, hands off, wheelies, standing up while you're riding, or just doing other things. When it comes to study, right? When it comes to information, when it comes to reading, when it comes to trying to learn a specific subject, those tricks would be the equivalent of pattern recognition, right? So you're not necessarily taking your hands off the handlebars, but you're able to see patterns inside the information, where when you were struggling just to learn the information, you couldn't see anything. You could barely remember. Now, once you got it, you don't have to remember the information. Remembering the information is for beginners. That's not something you need to do later on. You know what I'm saying? Once the information is all back in there somewhere, that's not, it's just about patterns and processes. Patterns and processes, right? Patterns and processes. Patterns and processes. That's why most scientists don't like the math guys. They don't like mathematicians at all. But they have to respect mathematicians, because mathematicians develop different types of neural networks, different types of sets of information. But even though they speak a different language, their language and what they know and what they learn is valuable in every other scientific discipline. Every other scientific discipline, especially when it comes to the body, because the body is a system of systems, or it's a pattern of patterns, which makes the heart so important, because the heart is the organ that has to integrate all of the patterns into one smooth, seamless, coherent thing. One smooth, seamless, coherent thing, right? And so I got to write something down. What is Paul talking about? Paul. Is Paul smoking crack? What is Paul talking about? See, Paul and Tika, they be having their own situation going on in the chat. What is Paul and Tika talking about? Oh, okay. Paul dropping dime on me. That's what Paul doing. My bad. Paul is in the middle of dropping dime on me. Yes. So when you get this book, right? This is why I keep trying to explain to people on the videos. Listen, it's very important that y'all support Cash App, Super Chat, Zelle, all of those things. Subscribe to the channel, on YouTube, follow me on Twitter, all of those things, right? But for the people that's really serious about the information, about the classes, you have to have the book, people. You have to have the book. See, Paul is just going into his book, and Paul is like, wait a minute. There's way more stuff inside the book that we're not getting in these videos. But I've been transparent about that the whole time, right? I've been transparent about that the whole time. So if people have been to college, or people have been to trade school, or people have been to school for nursing, or I can't necessarily say school to become a personal trainer, because I've had multiple experiences, right? There are some places where you can go to be a personal trainer where it's really easy to become certified. Then there are some places like NASM, right, where you got to get this big, crazy textbook, and then you might need a few side books with the textbook, and class might run you 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. You know what I'm saying? Like but if you've ever been in any type of classes like that, it's difficult. You know what I'm saying? And not necessarily difficult, it's just different, right? If you've never been in a situation like that. You know what I'm saying? Because the big difference between like grade school 1 through 12 and colleges or any of those types of classes I just named, and going to get certified to be a naturopathic doctor is like the worst. I've taken the Series 7 test. Let me say that, right? From Wall Street when I used to work down there. I've taken the Series 7, right? And the Series 7 is arguably the most difficult test to pass in America. They compare the Series 7 with your medical tests and your law school, you know, the bar exam. So it's one of them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like Jordan and LeBron and Kobe. They always trying to figure out who's the GOAT. It's like that. The naturopathy, it was way more difficult than I had thought it was going to be, because you have a certain amount of time where you're going to be submerged in, you know, Eastern culture. And so you got to study up all of these different Eastern philosophies. Then we had a certain amount of time we had to study up on farming and soil, this and that and the other. And then another whole amount of time on this. I thought it was going to be like herbs. I thought I was just going to, you know, ace my way right on through. Like, oh, I got this. Come on. It's Minister Inky. You know, we got this. And it was just a whole variety of different. Anyway, my point is more in the book than in the classes on the lives. The lives are to help you understand what's in the actual text, but it's not to replace the text. You know, the text is where it's at. And there's a whole nother thing with the text that I can't really give you in the video, because with the text, not only is it the material, but the text is you as an observer. So that's a whole nother conversation, right? But you're an observer, right? So we go through our whole observer effect, and we got the where is that book? I have a book on that. But the blueprint that builds itself, which is somewhere around here, right? And you would think it's such a big book that it should just be popping right out. But we kind of have a bunch of those big books. But anyway, the blueprint that builds itself, we spent a lot of time in that book on the observer effect, like in real life, in real time. You know what I'm saying? But with the book, I try to place you in the seat of the observer. So while you're going through the weeks and getting the information, you're an outsider looking at the class happen, right? Looking at the class happen. And then with the midterm and with the homework, the midterm and the finals, you're almost, if you don't know it, but you're almost tasked with like recreating your own version of the material, right? So that way you get to understand it in a different way, where it's not about like trying to memorize a bunch of stuff. It's just about comprehension and pattern recognition. So there's a lot of stuff that's repetitive. So over time, you'll just have it. You may not remember every step of beta oxidation or the Krebs cycle. Nobody does. Nobody does. Right? But you'll know them. You know what I'm saying? You'll know them. And it'll make sense. You'll know them and it'll make sense, because it's literally the most important part of the human body. It's the most important system in the human body. It's the most godly. It's the most godly thing associated with the human body. It's the most complex thing of the human body. I mean, I don't have enough words to describe it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we could say that's literally where God lives. Like, that's the thing that makes the temple, right? That's what makes it, so amazing, right? It's not just the body, but it's the whole connection. It's the one, anyway. I got ops right now, so I can't even really go so crazy, but it's the main thing. You know what I'm saying? And that's what LeBron say. LeBron say, keep the main thing. Which brings me to my little treat that I got going on right now. I got this LeBron James book. Ooh! This is my pleasure poison right now. Yeah, this is my ice cream, my chocolate cake, my weed, my my Hennessy, you know what I'm saying? My 40 ounce, my Newport, my loose Newport cigarettes. Whatever your guilty pleasure is, you know what I'm saying? I hope y'all ain't watching Pornhub, you know what I'm saying? But whatever y'all guilty pleasure is, binge watching Netflix. This is mine. This is mine right now. Yeah. Yeah, maybe y'all overeating. I don't know what y'all doing, but that's my guilty pleasure right now. All right. That's my little break right there, man. All right, hold on. I'm looking for something. Week 15, day 3. This thing. Okay. All right. So we are talking about the liver. We are talking about the liver today. I'm going to try not to hold y'all. I'm going to try not to. Has Saint HJ wrapped his blessing around us? Yeah, you can't just go straight with these books. Yeah, you can't just go straight through these books. You got to go, you know what I'm saying, a few pages, put it down. Like I'll be having to have something on in the background running, some music or maybe a ratchet TV show or something. Or I just need like another type of book. I just need another type of book. You know what I'm saying? So I'll read some, put this down, and then pick up another book. Now, if you do that, don't think that your distractions are hurting your ability to remember or process the information. It's not. It's not. It's in there. Don't worry about it. As long as you're going through, you get them pages in. It's just like your exercise. Don't worry about your exercise. As long as you get it in every day or every other day, as frequently as you can. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully we all doing our prayers at least 3 times a day. You know, it's going to accumulate over time. And when you get the accumulation over time, you know, you get resonance, coherence, emergence. Right. But I believe Saint HJ has, you know, shot us in the butt, pause, with the digital PEDs. So I'm just watching the number go. You see how YouTube was dogging us? Then I thought that YouTube was showing us some love when we went from 10, 11, 12, 25 people, 35 people, you know, because that's our usual realm, you know, 45, 55. I'm like, oh, okay, the family is here. 65, 75. Oh, that's not us. That's not us. That's HJ. So Hotep to Hotepistan, dua to everybody. Right? Dua to everybody. But yeah, so we want to dig into the liver. We want to dig into the liver and talk about, I'm trying to see what we want to talk about. I guess we're just going to talk about liver function in general. But I got angles. You know, I think I want to talk about fatty liver disease a little bit. Maybe we should pull up some articles. Yeah, let's get to the Google demons. And then we'll come back to the book and maybe the whiteboard and get busy with the get busy. You know how we do. Mic check. I walk around the street with the... Because I do think that fatty liver disease doesn't get enough discussion. And fatty liver disease is like the fraternal twin of diabetes, right? So a lot of folks in the Black community, you know, like obviously type 2 diabetes is global. Everybody deals with it. But Black people specifically have, you know, a much higher statistical, you know, and our Spanish folks have that same kind of situation, but with fatty liver disease. You know what I'm saying? Our Spanish brothers and sisters, you know, they got the fatty liver. In fact, that's kind of, you know, I kind of had them in mind. All of our Spanish family, I had them in mind. And I have to shout out my brother Nate, because Nate was kind of like the primary influence with this. He was pushing me like, nah, I'm telling you ain't. You got to talk about them peppers, and we really need you to at least do a book on peppers. And I was like, I don't know about a book on peppers, but I have the perfect spot for peppers, right? So actually, we probably need to get into peppers if we're talking about the liver, right? Because I feel like God designed peppers just for your liver, like literally liver medicine. You know what I'm saying? Like liver cure is peppers. I know a lot of you have been trained by your herbal salesman to automatically go milk thistle, right? Liver, milk thistle, right? But that's actually not in the herbal universe, sure. But that is not necessarily the go-to for your liver. The go-to for the liver is the peppers. Okay, and so when we go into the codex, and almost all of the homework for the class is in the codex, right? So I had one or two people ask me why we don't spend more time on the codex. And I just took it to myself as a silent, like, confirmation that those people are clearly not following along with us in the class, and they must not have their book, right? They must not have their book, right? Because obviously if they had their book, they would be getting the homework, because the homework is in the book. And 99% of the homework is in the codex, right? But yeah, we have, let me see. We have a couple of chapters. We have a couple of chapters dedicated to peppers. And I want to say it starts on page 92. Starting on page 92, we move through the next chapter on 97, the next chapter on page 100, which is the neurobiological pepper scroll. And we go to the preserver scroll, which we kind of still in the pepper bag a little bit, but we kind of move out to a much broader conversation on biochemistry. Yeah. Right? We move to another. Yeah, we get a little bit to a more broader scale. And then we get to embalming the living temple. Right? Embalming the living temple. where we still kind of in that same space. All right, so yeah, I think we're gonna try to jump through this, dig into some of this pepper talk. We're gonna get spicy. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get spicy. I think we're gonna get spicy a little bit. Talk that talk. You know what I'm saying? Get a little spicy out in these streets. All right, so before we jump into any of the books, let's go with the Google Demons. I eat peppers every day, and we should all eat peppers every day, right? We should all eat peppers every day. This is the whole thing with you know, and you know, this is the whole thing with the kitchen chemistry books. You know, Kitchen Chemistry Volume 1, Kitchen Chemistry Volume 2. This is the whole trick to even understanding the Ebers Papyrus books, right? In the Ebers Papyrus books, I think, and I know I still owe y'all another volume of, at least another volume or two of the Ebers Papyrus books, but y'all got like 5 or 6 volumes of the Ebers Papyrus books. But in those books, I think I may have contributed to, I'm not going to say like misinformation, but it's not, because it's not any misinformation, but it's like a pet peeve of mine. That's a misconception. Let me say it like that. It's a pet peeve of mine. That's a misconception. And that misconception is that, okay, so on the surface level, most people believe that medicine is a separate thing from plants, right? So that's surface level misconception number one, right? Because most medicine is extracted from plants, right? So that's number one. But that's on the surface level, right? The misconception I'm talking about that's even more of a pet peeve is that, and this is more for the people in the know, that right there is for like John Q. Public. Because once you start learning about naturopathy and holistic this and that, and, you know, Inky and Sabi and, you know, Dr. Africa or whoever, you know what I'm saying? Queen Afua, Jewel Pookrum, I don't know. Right. But once you start getting into the space, right, you learn that. You're like, oh, wait a minute. Herbs, you know, this is the parent of medicines. And so kind of everybody in the space knows that. But the misconception for the people that are in the know is that all of those like medicinal qualities are somehow, you know, in rare herbs, because most of the herbal salesmen on the internet only promote and discuss rare herbs, you know, so that way their formula or whatever herb they selling could be like, you know, stop everything you're doing and get this, because I've got some herb right here that comes from, you know, Mount Kilimanjaro, or, you know, this herb came from Tutankhamun's tomb, like literally black seed oil. And I got the most purest black seed oil in the earth, you know, like, and so what happens is, the reason why it's such a pet peeve for me is because that creates this misconception that nobody really discusses. And the misconception is that the fruits, the vegetables, and the seasoning that's right in your kitchen right now, not even what you got to go to the supermarket and get, the herbs, the seasonings, the fruits, the vegetables that's in your kitchen right now, in your fridge right now, in your cabinet right now, is not loaded with all kinds of medicinal compounds and, you know, alkaloids and terpenes and saponins and flavins and antioxidants of all sorts. Like all of those items is right now sitting in your fridge and your cabinets, and you don't think of them that way. You don't think of them that way. You just think of them based on whatever flavor they present. And you're like, oh yeah, we're going to make this, you know, we're going to make this whatever tonight. We're going to make this chicken or this lasagna. We're going to have us a vegan casserole, or I don't know what you're doing. We're going to make some vegan macaroni and cheese tonight. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever it is that you're making for dinner, you only think of, you know, items in your kitchen that way. You know, oh yeah, we're going to season it up with this and that. And we're going to, you know, but all of those items, especially the seasonings, especially the peppers, especially the onions, like all of these items, people fought and died for. We don't think about it that way, but people fought and died for to have access to these things. Just like now, we take reading for granted, but we have ancestors that fought and died for you to have the right to read. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't think of, but we just have a lot that we take for granted. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta sometimes redirect our attention. Delete that. Oh yeah, delete that. Man, I got all these screens from stuff I'm studying open on the back side. Wow. Why type in? That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. That's wild. Yeah, I typed in. What's going on with my? Okay, here we go. I typed in the Spice Wars. That's wild. I typed in the Spice Wars and Doom came up. Yo, I swear, listen, I swear, I think that's how they hide stuff on the internet now. Because people have so much access to information, they'll like put certain things into a movie or something else, or like maybe a song or just somewhere, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe a rapper come out with it as an album title or something. So when you search certain topics, the front page is loaded with foolishness. It's not what you're looking for. So I type in the Spice Wars and the whole front Google thing is Doom. New movie coming out, new series on whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? But no, we gotta look at it. We gotta review. So I had to type in real life Spice Wars to get Google to give me anything. Right? So here we have the historical Spice Wars, the spice trade significance. The spice trade was a historically vital economic and political driver involving the movement of precious spices like cinnamon, pepper, ginger, and nutmeg across continents. Right? Now, these are 4 things that we definitely take for granted. We totally take these for granted. And cinnamon is a game changer. Cinnamon is a game changer for anybody with fatty liver disease, high blood pressure, or any form of diabetes. Any form of diabetes. If you have any form of diabetes, cinnamon should be in every single meal. You need to put cinnamon on everything. How Puerto Ricans get with the garlic, you need to be like that with the cinnamon. Cinnamon on everything. Cinnamon you should have cinnamon in your purse. Like people talking about they walk around with their hot sauce in their purse. You need to have cinnamon in your purse. You should have cinnamon in your book bag. You should have a little thing of cinnamon like on your bed or by your nightstand or in your office or wherever you eat. You should have a cinnamon right there. You know what I'm saying? So as I know, people don't eat at the table anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like people eat in front of the TV in the living room. They eat in their bedroom. Wherever you eat, the cinnamon should be there, right there. So you never forget it. Wherever you eat, the cinnamon should be right there. So as soon as you're about to take a bite of that sandwich, you a little cinnamon on there. As soon as you're about to go into that oatmeal or whatever that is, that salad, it don't matter what it is. You need to put some cinnamon on there. Bruh, listen, people don't know saffron is more expensive than jewelry. Yo, saffron is more expensive than gold, I think. Let me see, because I might be capping to an extent. Let me see this. Let me see this. Is saffron more expensive than gold? Let me type this in and see what the Google demons say. Look at this. This is what the Google demons say. Gram for gram, high quality saffron has historically been more expensive than gold, but this can vary depending on market conditions. The perception that saffron is more expensive is largely because of its incredibly labor-intensive harvesting process. Harvesting time frame, quality variations, perishability. Unlike gold, saffron loses potency and value over time. Ease of trade, durability, market demand. Is saffron still more expensive? The adage that saffron is worth its weight in gold is often true, especially for the highest quality spice. However, it's not consistently more valuable. Okay, well, let's see. Let's see. Saffron. Let's see. Pure saffron price. $2 grams, $36. Okay, here's the pure stuff. Here's the pure stuff right here. Here's the pure stuff. This is what it looked like. Look, 2 pounds is $3,300. 2 pounds is $3,300. And this is with the 15% off. How dare they? Yeah, but this is with the 15% off. 2 pounds is $3,300. Right? So this is about $1,800 per pound. Right? So it's really not a game. It's really not a game. Right? So I just want y'all to understand, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, quality herbs, you know, but again, saffron is in your, well, saffron is not actually in your cabinet. Let me just plug you. Let me just, you know, let me put you on to something. You probably don't actually have saffron in your house, right? I have a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I got me a little tiny little bit of, you know what I mean? I got a little something in the, yeah, we use saffron in some of the, you know, saffron is, it highlights some of our compounds. Yeah, we put a little tiny bit of saffron in certain mixtures, you know what I'm saying? But we using that. The we using saffron, the real, that what I just showed you. In your cabinet, in your supermarket, the saffron is not that what I just showed you. The saffron is cut like cocaine. They cut saffron down, right? But if you notice the color, right? So automatically you can see the potency is in the pigment. And you're going to start to notice that, like, not only because we keep saying pigment and fiber, pigment and fiber, pigment and fiber, pigment and fiber, but as you start to look at these naturally super powerful plants and herbs, etc., you'll see the rich color. That's not coincidence. You know what I'm saying? You'll see these reds and browns and greens and blues and purples and yellows and, these super dense colors, because the nutrients is always locked up in between the pigment and the fiber. Just always remember that. But in the supermarket, the saffron is cut. You know what I'm saying? And saffron has been one of those things that your brain specifically loves. Your brain is wired for saffron. So this is one of those ways that people that know how your body works better than you get to, they get to, manipulate some stuff. So saffron is one of those things that works just as good like as MSG to trick your brain. The only thing is saffron is a zillion times more expensive than MSG. So you have the MSG products. But some geniuses, some evil geniuses said, man, what if we mix the MSG with the saffron? This would be like heroin. This would be like heroin. And then guess what? A whole industry was born mixing saffron with MSG. So that's where you get companies that came out with like Adobo and Sazun and all of those companies. You know what I'm saying? Their original mixtures was some version of saffrons mixed with, MSG. And then obviously some stuff to cut it to make sure it's like super affordable for you to buy it, for $2, $3, $4, a nice big whatever, you know what I'm saying? But it's just enough in there to create a mindgasm. So pretty soon people start putting that stuff on meat, salad, pasta, rice, everywhere. You put that on there, it's immediately good. And so it worked its way into recipes. You got recipes where it's just like add a packet of Sazun or add a packet of adobo. You know what I'm saying? It's going to taste amazing. You know what I'm saying? But it's really that. You know what I'm saying? It's really that. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, you see how quick and easy it is for me to segue off. So this is why the Spice Wars anyway was so important. Like people, that's what we got to remember. People died for these things. You know what I'm saying? Cinnamon, pepper, we're going to talk about. Ginger is, Eastern, like, what's the name of that stuff? I'm saying stuff like that's a real thing. Traditional TCM is what I'm looking for, but TCM is not a thing. TCM is a whole bunch of things, right? But traditional Chinese medicine, and TCM, they call it TCM for short. And TCM, ginger it's in that conversation. It's in that conversation. It's in that conversation with like Jordan, LeBron, and Kobe. Ginger is right in there. You know what I'm saying? You got astragalus, I think astragalus would be in that conversation. Like if you was to go and get one of them Chinese doctors from China that's just only, he just do TCM, and you was to ask him like what's the top herbs, like what's the most important herbs to your tradition, as an outsider looking in from the outside, right? I think that these herbs will be listed top 5. Not in this specific order, but definitely top 5. It'll be astragalus. Let me see. Let's go back and get us some Google demons. Let's get us some Google demons. Astragalus. Yeah, there you go. Here we go. Huang Chi. Huang Chi. That's what it's called. Wiki says send them a few little dollars or something. But that's what Inky said. Send me a few little dollars or something. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, astragalus is one of them ones, right? And interestingly enough, it's a legume. Wow. I should have put it in the Pulse book, right? I should have put it in the Pulse book. You see how important the beans are? I'm telling you, the pulses are everything. If you don't know and you don't have the Pulse book, it is one of our more important books. Okay, yeah, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do it. We're not going to look for it. But it's called The Pulse of the Culture. The Pulse of the Culture. Right? It's part of that 3-book, that trio. It was Kitchen Chemistry, Orthorexia, and Autodidact book. Those books all kind of went together in our Skintology series. But the Orthorexia book, aka the Pulse of the Culture book, was centered around the nutrition in, pulses, which legumes or beans are a part of, right? But yeah, I didn't even think about astragalus at the time. Astragalus is definitely at the GOAT level. Right, and these are all of the different species, or I would probably say the main species. Look at that. Woo! Look at that. Wild lentil chickpea is a type of astragalus. That's crazy. I'm learning with y'all. We learning together. But I did tell y'all this in another way, though. I did tell y'all this in another way, and I say it all the time. So if you've been watching me long enough, you've heard me say it a few times. One of the most difficult thing about trying to learn about herbs is that herbs have different names in every different place. So, it might be whatever in your country, but then in another country, it has a different name. And then usually each country has a couple of names, right? Like you'll have the slang term, and then you'll have the official name. And then those names will vary in different places. So perfect example is Irish moss, sea moss. Irish moss and sea moss is not real things. Those don't actually exist, right? For a multitude of reasons. First of all, there's no such thing as sea moss or Irish moss. These are different types of algae. But another reason is because it's a slang word that covers a broad category. So what we would consider as Irish moss is algae from cold water regions. And that's a whole bunch of different things. We know the main ones are kelp, Chondrus crispus, bladderwracks, wakame, stuff like that. But, is it dulse? Yep, dulse. A bunch of them. You know what I'm saying? Cold water, warm water, like from the Caribbean, You know, you got your Eucoma cottoni, your gracilarias, and just all of those different types of algae. You know what I'm saying? But somebody in Jamaica, they would just say, you know, sea moss, or they might say black sea moss or black spaghetti sea moss, you know, whatever. But those are slang terms. So if you try to find a book or something on that, those don't really exist. You know, you got to get a book on phycology, or you got to go get Dr. Inky's book, you know, on sea moss. You know what I'm saying? You got to type in Dr. Inky and sea moss into Amazon. Right. So that's just one of the crazy things that's, you know, when you're trying to study herbs. It's the same plant, but if it grows, if the plant is native to multiple countries, chances are, you know what I'm saying, it's like a career criminal. It has plenty of aliases. And you're going to have to figure out all them aliases. You know what I'm saying? And then to get deeper and deeper, you have to figure out which versions are hybrids, you know, natural hybrids, fake hybrids, where the original plant was cultivated, well, not cultivated, where it grew wild at, you know, and then how did it get cultivated and spread around, and it gets crazy. It gets crazy. So on the surface level, people just study medicinal benefits. Like they just go to Google, type of herb in, and then type in the word benefits. I know half of y'all watching be doing that, right? But you don't really learn much about the herb that way. You don't really learn much about the herb that way, because a lot of times you might be looking up the wrong thing, right? You might be looking up the wrong thing. Like right now, we typed in astragalus, right? Because when you go to get your Chinese, you know, you go to Chinatown, and there's usually a Chinatown everywhere, right? You go to Chinatown, you might get astragalus, but then you go home and you try to look up astragalus benefits, and you don't know what astragalus. What astragalus? Because all these right here is astragalus. all these is astragalus. And I'm sure there's more versions of astragalus that's not listed in the wiki. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure there's more that's not listed in the wiki. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, my point is that this would be top 5. And here you see the phytochemicals. Astragalus root includes diverse phytochemicals such as saponins, isoflavin, flavonoids, right? So that's another thing. When you start getting into the isoflavin, flavonoids, that's where the estrogen debate pops up, right? Are you getting in plant estrogens, and are the plant estrogens down regulating or up regulating your estrogen levels? Right? Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so there's that. What else? What I was saying. Top five. This is what the good stuff look like when it comes to faux tea, right? It's really dark. The he shu wu, right? The he shu wu, right? Yeah, top 5. Let me see. Ginger. Okay, ginger, see. Yeah. Ginger's at the GOAT level. Of course, I know everybody's thinking immediately Chinese folks. You're thinking ginseng. Ginseng up there. Ginseng is up there, but ginseng is incredibly deceptive. Ginseng is incredibly deceptive. I thought I knew a lot about ginseng when I was younger. and I was super stupid. I thought I knew a lot about ginseng because in the neighborhood, this is way before Viagra's and all that. So they used to sell like these little vials at the corner store. For $1, you could get a vial of this liquid. And the liquid was ginseng and bee pollen or royal jelly. I think it was royal jelly. Yeah, it was like royal jelly mixed with ginseng. And I was supposed to have you, for the fellas, get you right. You know what I'm saying? And so just the way my brain was hardwired, I needed to look it up and figure it out and all that. But I thought I knew something about ginseng, and I didn't know much at all until my dad took me to Chinatown. My dad has his underground connections, and I went into a store, and I thought they had a bunch of herbs. It was a herb. I was looking for a herb store, and I go into this herb store. They got a whole bunch of herbs, and they don't. They literally just had hundreds and hundreds. Like they just had like every version of ginseng that you could imagine, and then some that you couldn't imagine. And the ginseng went literally from like a dollar or two, you get you like a handful of ginseng, up to ginsengs that was like $5,000 for an ounce. Like $5,000 for an ounce of ginseng. An ounce. That's literally like a handful of ginseng. $5,000. My mind was blown on ginseng. I was like, okay. It's levels to this thing. It's levels to this thing. You know what I'm saying? And they weren't trying to sell me on the ginseng. The lady kept redirecting me in there. She didn't speak that much English, but she did speak a little broken English. But she kept redirecting me to like the side of the wall that had the $1 and the $5. She kept redirecting me to the cheap stuff, and I'm constantly asking her, like, but what about those? Why is that $5,000? No. I just want to talk about that. Why is that $5,000? She said, you look at here. This is good right here. This is good. You need male. You need male. And she kept trying to do her hand like this. You need male. Yeah, you do right. This is good for you. I felt so insulted. I was like, no, ma'am. How much of this I got to buy for you to explain that to me? You know what I'm saying? I was like, all right, cool. I did a little shopping. You know what I'm saying? A little fake shopping, though. I ain't spend no money in there. I probably spent about $20 or $30 on different little cheap ginsengs. Okay, let me get $2, $3 of this one. Give me $4. Give me $10 of this. Give me $5. Just enough so I could go to the counter and look like I was doing business, and then ask the man behind the counter about the ginsengs that was behind the counter. Because the ginsengs behind the counter was the ones that went from like $1,000 to $5,000. And he just started explaining to me how they were grown, how much nutrients is in there. That the ones that I bought, like the ones on the cheap wall, that's the ones that you're buying in the grocery stores and different places like that. Like, no Chinese medical practitioner would use those. Like, basically they was trash. Meanwhile, I already paid him my little $20-$30 for what I got. I'm like, oh, thank you for letting me know I just purchased trash. And it got the big sign, no refund. But I was cool because I paid for the lesson. You know what I'm saying? I didn't care about what I purchased. You know what I'm saying? I paid for the lesson. And I got a good lesson that day. You know what I'm saying? In potency. I didn't even have to look at the chat. I didn't even have to look at the chat, and I already knew that Tika was going to be in the chat. I already knew Tika was going to be in the chat. No, it wasn't the flim flam. It was the opposite. You know what I'm saying? Like the real potent, like the medicinally or therapeutic potent stuff was the stuff behind the counter from 1,000 to 5,000. The rest of the stuff was just, you know what I'm saying? Like, still have some nutrients. It's still, them things still had nutrients in there. It just wasn't the same as, you know what I'm saying? Like the honey market. You know what I'm saying? Honey is cool. Honey is healthy. Honey's nutritious, but it's not Manuka honey. And then when you get into Manuka honey has grades to it. So you know what you're buying. What you buying $20 for 2 ounces ain't the same as what you're getting $90 for 2 ounces. What you buying $90 for 2 ounces ain't the same honey as you would buy $400 for 2 ounces. You know what I'm saying? Ooh, I gotta get my legs ready.
Inky prayer number 2. We give thanks and praise to the Most High God for the divine spark that set our cells into perpetual motion. We give thanks for the magnetism of the Most Holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and caves. We give thanks for the ability to drink clean water every 60 minutes, flooding the river of life. We give thanks that sugar has not covered our ferries and turned them into stone. We give thanks that darkness has not covered the riverbanks with calcium and turned them into stone. We give thanks that anger and fear have not turned our almonds bitter, turning our heart to stone. We give thanks for smooth sailing upstream through the valley of death, through the superior vena cava into the right atrium. We give thanks for smooth sailing around the heart through the corona crown, joining the vortex in the right atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the ray wave, reflecting on the semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway to the vineyard. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate to the vineyard closes. We give thanks to the Most High God that provides the light and our breath, and the light in our breath. We give thanks for the fine olfactory system that makes our grapes ripe with light. We give thanks for the Jed pillar that provides us with a stable fleet of ferry boats to dock in our vineyard. We give thanks for smooth sailing through the pulmonary vein into the storm of the left atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the ray wave, reflecting on the semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter closes. We give thanks for the magnetism of the most holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and our caves. Amen.
Hold up. So, see, you ain't trust me. You had to double check. Look at that. Look, somebody went to double check. Shout out to Sacred Soldier. Look, I just found some ginseng for 5,000. I told you, it's crazy. The herb game is wild. Okay, show off. Show off. Hey. All right. Okay, so let's make sure we get back to work. All right. All right. So anyway, that's why the Spice Wars was so crazy. Right? The Spice Wars were super crazy. And nutmeg is a drug. Cocaine is a hell of a drug. Nutmeg is nutmeg is not a drug, but nutmeg, you know what I'm saying? You gotta watch that nutmeg. Nutmeg got some qualities to it. Matter of fact, let me look up nutmeg. Let me make sure I'm talking about the right thing. I might not be talking about the right thing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, nutmeg. You gotta watch that nutmeg. You gotta watch that nutmeg. Listen, one of my mom's best friends, you know, she used to like babysit me, you know what I'm saying? So I spent a lot of time in her house when I was little. She used to make us carrot cake. Well, she was the carrot cake lady in the neighborhood, you know what I'm saying? But I never seen her as the carrot cake lady. You know, she was Miss April, you know what I'm saying? And so she always had carrot cakes in her house. I hated carrot cakes, but I began to love carrot cakes because they was always there. And then she always made the craziest hot chocolate. And I could never understand for the life of me, you know what I'm saying? Like why her hot chocolate tasted like love in a cup, like literally love in a cup. Like I would kill somebody right now for Miss April to make me a cup of hot chocolate. But now that I'm older, I know that Miss April was one of them ones. She was one of them ones. When they say that food is a way to a man's stomach, that's partially true. That's not fully true. That's partially true. That's because we come from, you know, we have roots. Not all of us now, you know what I'm saying? Black folks in America is wild, you know, FBA and all these different kind of crazy stuff. But some of us, we have Southern roots. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes I'll get into an argument with some FBA folks and they'll try to violate me. Well, Inky, you Haitian, you ain't with us anyway. I'm like, ho. You know, you do know people have two parents, right? So my roots go back to the South strong. You know what I'm saying? Because my mom's side, which is not Haitian, you know, they American, that's FBA, you know what I'm saying? All the way, or whatever that's considered. I don't even believe in that concept, but what they're painting the picture of, that's my mom's side of the family. But then even my Haitian side of the family, we forget that Haitians have, you know, Southern history is Haitian history in America. You know what I'm saying? But my point is, going back to the Southern culture, you know, you're dealing with people who really understood seasoning at another level. You know what I'm saying? So it was almost like magic. You know what I'm saying? And Miss April was one of them ones. She knew how to use seasoning. Like, so when you drink that hot chocolate had nutmeg in it, you know, like just the right amount, you know, like that. Man, that was crazy. That hot chocolate was crazy. But now I know it was nutmeg and cinnamon and, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, she know how to put that thing together. Then she had the, you know, she was old school with the brown sugar. So she, you know, she made sure she put that sugar in there. Hit the dopamine, mixed with the nutmeg and the man, we was high. We was high. You know what I'm saying? Me and her daughter was high because she had a daughter at the time around my age. Shout out to Yasmin. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that hot chocolate and any other children, because she was one of them ones. She took care of the babies in the neighborhood. She was a beautiful lady. You know what I'm saying? But anybody had that hot chocolate, you was high. You was high. She knew how to put that thing together. Yeah, they mixed that. They mixed them seasonings together. That's what it's about. They mix them seasoning together. Get the cannabinoid system running, the opioid system running, the dopamine system running. You have no idea. You are high out of your mind. But natural though, natural. You know what I'm saying? Just seasoning. You know what I'm saying? So plants are amazing. All right. All right. So while we here, let's look into pepper. Let's look into peppers. Pepper. What do I want to say? Let's try to get us a good search. As you know, the search is everything. Let's go medically active compounds in pepper. I feel like this is not a good. Let's see. Capsaicin. Okay, here we go. We're getting a little something. Limonene. Let's see if we can get deeper though. Let's see what they got. Black pepper, chili peppers, capsaicin. Okay, carotenoids, vitamin C, flavonoids, phenolics. All right, that's kind of decent. That's kind of decent. Yeah, let's type in. Actually, let's keep that open. Let's keep that open. All right, see what I typed in over here? Peppers versus fatty liver disease. Reduce fat accumulation, blah, blah, blah. Metabolic regulation. It can activate TRPV1 channels and other metabolic pathways like AMPK and PPR, which are involved in lipid metabolism and energy balance. Hepatoprotective effects. Capsaicin has shown protective effects against various types of liver injury, including non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, alcohol-induced liver injury, and liver fibrosis. Source and type of peppers. The term peppers is broad. Chili peppers, which contain capsaicin, are the most relevant to liver health problems. While bell peppers do not have the same active compounds, potential contradictions. One source suggests that spicy foods can worsen fatty liver disease due to the liver's inability to process fat. However, the overall body of evidence points to capsaicin's protective role. All right. This is kind of where I would like to dig in right here. All right, just so we have an idea of what we're working on when we start to highlight some of these things. All right, so TRPV1 channels are ion channels in sensory neurons that act as molecular integrators of noxious stimuli, detecting heat, low pH, and chemical irritants like capsaicin from chili peppers. When activated by these stimuli, they cause calcium and sodium influx, depolarizing the cell and resulting in painful burning sensations. While many found in sensory neurons, TRPV1 also plays roles in immune cells, inflammation, and other non-neuronal cells, right? So that's probably the pocket that we would live in terms of benefit on liver health, right? And then this is also kind of like just a reminder back to what we were discussing about how electricity activates neurons of various types, right? Because that's what this conversation is right here. Calcium and sodium influx depolarizing the cell. That means that the electric cycle is begun, right? The neuron starts to produce electricity, and whatever type of neuron it is, it produces whatever that thing is. Right? So if it's a dopamine neuron, a serotonin neuron, or whatever it is, once that electric switch is turned on, then it starts to producing whatever that is. Maybe it's a melanin concentrating hormone neuron or whatever it is. Right? That's how all neurons and nerves work. All right. Now we talk about AMPK a lot, so we kind of should be familiar with AMPK. But peroxisome proliferator activated receptors, right? This is important. Remember, I told you that you got set, like you got Horus and Set. You got Horus and Set inside your cells. Horus would be, equivocated to the mitochondria, recycling ATP, for energy and light in the cell. Set would be a peroxisome that's just like a mitochondria. The only thing is, it is in there constantly producing peroxide to cause chaos, mayhem, destruction, and tear up your cell, right? Inky, so why do peroxisomes exist in the cell if they don't do anything but tear up your cell? Because destroying things is a part of regeneration. It's a part of the living cycle. Remember, every day your body has to break down and rebuild 50 billion cells. So in the grand scheme of things, the bad guys are just as beneficial as the good guys in your body, right? That's where Ma'at comes in, or the idea of balance, right? Because when we micro zoom in to a peroxisome and what it does, like it just swims around creating peroxide, tearing up stuff, you can't see how that could possibly be beneficial. When you zoom out and you realize that, your body has to break down cells to be able to have all of the parts it needs to rebuild cells. And then not just that, you have cells that are going bad, meaning maybe there's some mutation somewhere in there, or maybe there's an electron leak, maybe there's some sort of malfunction in the cell. Your body needs to be able to have that cell break down, right? So your body has a few different mechanisms in its back pocket to break down cells. So that way that cell doesn't become destructive to the other cells or tissues around it, right? So in the micro sense, peroxisomes are set. You know what I'm saying? They are the bad guy, Lex Luthor, you know what I'm saying? Or whoever, you know what I'm saying? You know, the bad guy is. But in the grand scheme of things, they are a part of the body's, you know, you need those things. You need your catabolic machinery. The same way you have catabolic hormones, you have catabolic machinery inside the cells that perform the catabolic function, right? So you think about anabolic hormones, catabolic hormones. These hormones just provide instructions. That's all a hormone is doing. It's just providing an instruction for a cell or a group of cells or a tissue. You know what I'm saying? It's just instruction. But inside those cells, you actually need molecular machinery that's going to carry out the instructions, right? And so that's where you get to organelles and enzymes, etc. And peroxisomes is one of those organelles that's a part of the demolition crew. See that? I knew Tika must be from the Bronx. Tika probably used to be out there with Cardi B. Tika was out there with Cardi B in the streets. That's what Tika was at. Tika was out there in them streets with Cardi B. They was lacing men. Y'all was out there lacing men. Right? We need to start the Me Too movement against these women's that been lacing us. Us too. You know what I'm saying? They got the Me Too. We're going to start the Us Too. The Us Too movement. Yeah, they got Us Too. That's what it's going to be called. They got Us Too. All right. Anyway. Peroxisome proliferator activated receptors, right? A family of proteins that regulate lipid metabolism, glucose homeostasis, and inflammation. Beneficial role: activate genes involved in fatty acid oxidation, breakdown, and helping to reduce fat in the liver, right? This is important, right? Because we're talking about everything. We all over the place as usual, but remember, we started out, our discussion was on fatty liver disease. Yo, I know people that be tuning into these videos in the middle of the video be like, what is Inky talking about? Hey, I've been trying to tell y'all, don't tune in the middle. When you tune in the video already going, you just pull that little zip, pull the thing back to the beginning so you can watch the video from the beginning. Don't be trying to catch into the live stream right there in the middle. Just you go back to the start. Otherwise, it's crazy. Be like, what is Inky? Did he just go from saffron to Cardi B lacing? What? We were talking about fatty liver disease. Right? Okay. Complex role can promote fat accumulation in the liver by inducing genes like fatty acid synthase and lipoprotein lipase. Therapeutic target: despite a role in fat accumulation, there's also a target for drugs that can improve insulin sensitivity and reduce inflammation in the liver, making it a target for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease treatment. So if you see this somewhere, that's what this stands for: NAFLD. NAFLD, NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease treatment. All right. But also, right, target for drugs, right? It can also make it a target for peppers and herbs, right? It can be a target for plants that can improve insulin and reduce inflammation in the liver. All right. And of course, AMPK for the family that hasn't been here. AMPK is an energy sensor, right? AMPK is an energy sensor, very important in the body, right? AMPK is important enough. It is important enough to get me to start erasing some stuff. Okay. AMPK is important enough to get me to start erasing some stuff so I can put this up here. It's one of those things that you do actually need to remember. Remember, we talked about neural networks and memorizing stuff versus learning stuff. Well, this is something you actually need to have in your mental. You need to know this. Right? It's one of those slick little caveats that is going to age very well. The future of medicine, the future of fitness, the future of longevity research, the future of medicine, fitness, longevity, what else? Naturopathic, holistic, all of those things center around this. Right? The future of diabetes, the future of obesity, all of those things center around this enzyme. This is an enzyme. It's a sensor, but it's an enzyme, right? And so what you need to remember is this, right? That's why I didn't erase my electron transport chain. If you don't know what this is my terrible artistry, right? But this is me drawing an electron transport chain. Cytochrome 1, 2, 3, 4, and then ATPase, right? This is where the ATP magic happens. This is where the water magic happens. This is the supervisor / manager of the electron transport chain. This right here is FAD target, NAD target, right? Remember them that way, you be straight. Anyway, AMPK, right? This is what you need to remember. This whole little thingy right here, right? ATP, ADP, AMP, right? That's what you need to know. And this is 3, 2, 1, right? 3, 2, 1, contact. It's the season. It's the moment. My bad. I used to watch that show when I was literally 45 years ago. And I still know the beginning. I know the intro. I can see the intro right now like it's in front of me. But anyway, remember it this way. This is a mnemonic device to help you remember this. ATP, ADP, AMP. ATP3, ADP2, AMP1. Right? This has 3 phosphates. This has 2 phosphates. This has 1 phosphate. The phosphate is the thing that your body uses for energy. Right? The phosphate is the thing your body uses for energy. So just know that anywhere phosphorus is, right? Right? Phosphorus, right? Horus, right? The Kemetic god of the light, of resurrecting the living and all that, right? Horus's name is blended right on in there for you. Right in phosphorus, you have Horus in there. Just want to make sure I highlight my man real quick. You know what I'm saying? Kemetic science is everywhere. It's hidden in our... Anyway, So phosphorus is phosphorus in the presence of oxygen is where we get the term phosphorescence. Phosphorus in the presence of oxygen causes light, right? Just remember that. Phosphorus in the presence of oxygen is where we get the original term phosphorescence, right? Why is that important? Because phosphorus plus oxygen equals phosphate, right? Phosphorus plus oxygen equals phosphate, right? And phosphate is the body's energy thingy. This is what we use for energy. So this is how I knew before anyone else in the world knew that our cells did not use electricity for energy, but they use light for energy. So this is how, even when I didn't fully know what I was talking about, I was willing to argue with anybody, college professors. And as I argued with more people, actually, I learned more about what I was talking about. But I had studied Kemet, right? And I seen Horace's name in there. And then I looked it up. Let me look it up and show y'all a little wiki. Let's see what wiki say. Maybe wiki will help y'all out. Because I was charged up. And this is before I even fully knew how to explain what I was talking about. Let's see what wiki's saying. Can y'all see the wiki? Okay. Phosphorus, white and red. So when I seen the white and the red, you know, I automatically like, oh, that's Horace's set right there, right? But anyway, here you go, right here. Look, isolation of white phosphorus in 1669 by Hennig Brand marked the scientific community's first discovery of an element since antiquity. The name phosphorus is a reference to the god of the morning star in Greek mythology, inspired by the faint glow of white phosphorus when exposed to oxygen. Just saying. See, y'all be thinking I be tripping when I be. Watch out now. Hey, what my man Young Thug? Whoop-de-doo. Whoop-de-doo. Right? So, anyway. Right? And then, so phosphorus releases light when exposed to oxygen. This property is also at the origin of the term phosphorescence, meaning glow after illumination. Although white phosphorus itself does not exhibit phosphorescence, but chemiluminescence caused by its oxidation. Right? Now, see how I went down the rabbit hole from Kemet and went into chemiluminescence? This is how I went from a rabbit hole, starting with Kemetic science and somehow wound up in chemiluminescence. Anyway, this is how I've been going into these rabbit holes. All right. So it's chemiluminescence that causes the light to be released from phosphorus and oxygen. Right now, blah, 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 blah. Most industrial production of phosphorus is focused on mining transformation of phosphate rock into phosphoric acid for phosphate-based fertilizers. Now, phosphorus is essential to all known life forms, largely through organophosphates, organic compounds containing the phosphate ion as a function group. These include DNA, RNA, ATP, and phospholipids, right? So DNA, RNA, ATP, and phospholipids require phosphorus, right? Just in case you didn't know, phospholipids is literally the membrane of all your cells, right? The main component of bones and teeth is also a modified form of hydroxyapatite, itself a phosphorus mineral, right? So phosphorus is literally the most important mineral to the human body, low key, right? Even though, and so it might be in the Eat Right for Your Haplotype original book. I think it is. If it's not in that book, it's in one of the books that I wrote around that time period. This is way before we started putting books on Amazon and stuff. But I had the CHON, the CHON, and then I put the phosphorus like honorable mention, because when you look up textbooks and stuff like that, they really don't discuss phosphorus. Phosphorus is like a mystery. It goes in the category with water, melanin, and this whole hidden aspect of anatomy and physiology, because remember, we go through our timeline, you know what I'm saying, from the origin of medical schools in America to, 1961, discovery of electron transport chain. There just wasn't, it didn't make much sense. You can't figure out the importance of phosphorus if you don't have quantum mechanics, right? So without quantum mechanics, you can't see the importance of pigments. You can't see the importance of phosphorus, because you don't have a science of photons. You don't have a science of electrons. You don't have a science of protons, right? So there's no real context for the magic of phosphorus. You know what I'm saying? But when you go through the body, anywhere that there's quantum mechanical activity, there is phosphorus, right? So when you look at the membrane of cells, like earlier we was talking about the pepper being a part of your pain receptors, you know what I'm saying, or the nerves and neurons that is a part of that pain receptor network. And how they depolarize the nerves. The neurons, so that way, you can get those signals going. That depolarizing, where the calcium and the sodium goes in and all that, that's happening because of the phospholipid membrane. So neurons are only able to do their magic because of the phospholipid membrane. That's where the electricity is generated. The electricity is generated when the calcium and the sodium and all that come across the membrane of the cell. Well, that membrane of the cell is phosphates. So everywhere where electric, light, anywhere where the magic stuff starts to happen in the cells, phosphate is there silently, like, the head nod. You be in like you be in a nice neighborhood or a white neighborhood, and you just see one other black person. Y'all don't know each other, but you be like, hey, listen. I've seen plenty of white folks do the same thing. Y'all be in a black neighborhood in the middle of the hood. Y'all just see that other white person, be like, you know what I'm saying? You get that little head nod, like, you here too? Yeah, it's a natural phenomenon. You know what I'm saying? Trust me. Deer do it in the forest, and they're not black or white. Lions is on the loose. You see a deer. He look around. He see one other deer. He be like, in that moment, they just had a quantum entanglement moment where they just exchanged some information. Like, you trying to escape too, huh? Yeah, man, they deep over here. You better go that. But anyway, so it's important to know, right? And our planet, right? Our planet doesn't have a lot of phosphorus. Our planet doesn't have a lot of phosphorus. That's why it was so important for mitochondria and cells to somehow form a relationship. That relationship, we still don't understand that relationship, right? It is hypothesized that cells captured mitochondria, right? And the mitochondria over time just adapted to the benefits of being like having the protection of being in a cell, right? Because there were other things that would eat it and break it down, whereas inside the cell, it could live and do its own thing like indefinitely. And the cell would protect it. So symbiotic relationship was formed. And there's other scientists that say, you know, the mitochondria as bacteria invaded the cells and took them over. You know what I'm saying? But either way, the relationship was formed, you know, because mitochondria allow us to recycle phosphates. And that's the whole thing. There's not enough phosphorus on this planet to make enough phosphate for all of the living creatures to have enough phosphate to get them through a whole day, right? So you have mitochondria inside the cells, and the mitochondria, did y'all see how smooth that was? Y'all didn't even know. We cycled right back to the where we started from. That's how smooth we that was nice and smooth. We already right back here. So the mitochondria recycles the phosphate over and over and over and over and over, because typically you need your, whatever you weigh, you need that much phosphate throughout the day. Yeah, so if you weigh 200 pounds, in order to make it through a day, you need 200 pounds of phosphate. There's not that much phosphorus on Earth for every single living creature to have their weight in phosphorus every day, right? So you have the mitochondria, right? The mitochondria is what recycles phosphorus, right? And so you have these three molecules right here. You have ATP, which is the main, you know, hot off the presses, fresh out the oven, right? You have three phosphates, which is the reason why it's called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Tri means three. Then when your body uses a little bit of that energy, you know, a little bit of that phosphate, it'll pop one of them off of there and use it for energy. That ATP now becomes ADP, adenosine diphosphate. Di means two, like two dice. Die, two, right? Now, should your body use one of those phosphates off of adenosine diphosphate, now you go down to adenosine monophosphate, which is only one phosphate left on there, right? This is also where creatine comes into the story, right? Creatine comes into the story because creatine helps speed up your body's ability to recycle ATP, right? So now, this is how we go back to this guy, AMPK. Remember, AMPK is part of the peppers conversation, right? So what AMPK does, see, AMP, AMPK, right? AMP, AMPK, right? The K stands for kinase. Kinase is the type of enzyme it is, right? So what AMPK does is whenever you get a bunch of this AMP inside the cell, AMPK starts sending out messages and starts doing, you know, a whole bunch of different processes in the cell to try to get you back up like this, right? So inside your cells, you have a bunch of all of these floating around at the same time, right? But this is what determines the energy level of the cell. If you have mostly ATP floating around, your cell is energized. If you have mostly ADP floating around in the cell, your cell is getting towards, like, you know, you drive in the car, it's like a little below half. So you could still drive and get where you're trying to go, but it's definitely a little below half. You know what I'm saying? When you get to AMP and you have mostly AMP molecules floating around, That's like when you driving and it's below E. Now, I know I'm not the only person that been driving a car below E before. We're just gonna need like that. Because I know everybody in chat is a millionaire, even though nobody hit the super chat yet. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But I know y'all all must be millionaires, so y'all never roll with the car on E. But so try to imagine it. You know what I'm saying? When you on E, when you on, when you at A&P, you wake up in the morning, get in the car already on E. You like, oh my goodness, man, I only got 10 minutes. It take you 9 minutes to get to work. It's 8. You got to be to work at 9 o'clock. It take you 9 minutes to get to work. It's 8:49 right now. When you look at your watch, like, wait a minute. If I go to the gas station, I'm screwed because I'm going to be late for work. If I go to work, I'm screwed because this car definitely will not start. It may not even make it to work, but if it do, when I park it and get out, it's definitely not starting. Anyway, so when you get to A&P, when you have mostly A&P, right, you have a bunch of stuff going on, right? The way the body's designed, A&P, particularly the adenosine, helps to, helps as a vasodilator, open up for more blood flow. It also helps to signal the conversion of serotonin to melatonin, because you should be sleepy time, right? Should be time for you to go to sleep, because whatever you've been doing all day, your body is no longer able to keep up with your energy demand. So it can't recycle ATP fast enough, right? You're using the phosphates faster than your body can recycle them, right? So that's where AMPK is important, right? And this is in a healthy system. This is how it works in a healthy system. If you got diabetes, fatty liver disease, or just fattiness, you may have some problems here. So this is an invisible background cause where some people have issues. Like you might have something going on and they might put you on a metformin or insulin or whatever the case may be. And you're not seeing, like, it's not working like it's supposed to be. It's because it might not be an insulin or primarily an insulin issue. You know what I'm saying? If you have type 1 diabetes, even though that's a lot scarier because it's a lot more dangerous, it's a lot simpler to understand, because they know exactly what the problem is. But type 2 diabetes, there are so many different players in the energy system that any one of a zillion of them, from neurochemistry, melanin concentrating hormone, to liver behavior, pancreas, little molecules like, GLUT4 or AMPK, or just all kinds of different things could be going wrong, slowing down your body's ability to produce energy. All right. So this is important to pay attention to, because this is going to be the thing that recognizes when you get here. Right. So imagine if you was driving your car and your gas thingy broke. So you didn't have ability to know when you at 3/4, half a tank, 1/4, or driving on E. That's AMPK, right? AMPK is not only the sensor to tell you how much gas is in the tank, but it also is the, I'm not going to say regulator, a better term would initiator. It's not only the sensor of where the gas is at, but it's also the initiator to help get the gas levels back up, or help set the processes in motion for you to go to sleep. Because that's one of the things that happens when you go to sleep. Your body is able to keep making ATP, but your body is shut down. Your body's shut down. So you're making, you're using very little ATP, and your body's making a whole bunch of ATP. as opposed to the difference in the day, you're using a lot of ATP, and hopefully you're using more ATP than your body can recycle. If you're using more ATP than your body can recycle, then that means the fatty acids got to get broken down. That means you're going to be losing body fat. Also, you're going to get into glycogen depletion. Come on, family. You're going crazy. There you go. But you're going to get into glycogen depletion. You know what I'm saying? So your type 2A, type 2B muscle fibers have the ability to clean themselves out and grow and then refill themselves and rebuild back up the glycogen reserve, which, is a part of the autophagy switch and all of those other good things, right? So all of that centers around AMPK as a sensor, right? And pepper helps you do that, right? Peppers help keep that in shape, right? Peppers help keep that in shape. All right, M4. M4 want to make sure we could afford ramen noodles at least. At least we could eat some ramen noodles tonight for dinner. Thank God. Thank God, M4. I'm gonna give me at least I can give me a tray of ramen noodles. Something. Hey, y'all better be getting some books or something, right? Thank God for M4. All right, so we got this. Oh, let me go get my charger. Yeah, go get you some of all that. Go get some of all that from the website. That's what that. Yeah, go get you some of all that. All right. So now, back to live action, right? So just for our Spanish folks, I do want y'all to be aware, right? And I didn't type in anything crazy. I just typed in Spanish people versus fatty liver disease. So it's not like no super crazy thing, but I just want y'all to see that this is a real thing, right? And you can go down the rabbit holes yourself and go deep. We did a few shows back in the days on it. You know what I'm saying? Because my oldest is Spanish. My oldest daughter is Spanish. Her mom was Spanish. So I had a lot of folks asking me about, from that side, fatty liver disease and kidney stuff and all kind of stuff. So we went deep into it. But yeah, there's some anomalies that they have to deal with because they just have, some genetic stuff, right? Genetic predispositions play a role in the increased susceptibility to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease in these populations. Hold on, where is it at? Here we go. Studies, including large U.S. surveys, indicate that Hispanic populations have a significantly higher prevalence of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease than non-Hispanic white and black populations. Right. So there is some genetic factors. There's definitely some genetic factors, and then obviously some lifestyle stuff. There's definitely some lifestyle stuff. You know what I'm saying? But the beauty is a part of their tradition. You know, I don't know how far it goes back or whatever the case may be, but a part of their tradition has been to neutralize the potential of getting fatty liver disease by loading up the food with garlic and peppers, right? So typically we know, Spanish folks, depending on what type, they're known for either garlic or peppers or some combination of the two. So when you taste traditional Spanish cuisine, it's loaded with, all kinds of chili peppers and jalapenos and whatever, all kind of crazy stuff is in there, right? That's because their ancestors somehow understood. Yeah. Like, share, super chat, subscribe, join the Patreon, which is where these classes will be living at. Get the products, AmericanHealer.website, hit the Cash App, and then go back and hit the Cash App one more time. Hit the Zelle, hit the PayPal if you who knows, maybe you in, I don't know, Zimbabwe right now watching us on the live stream. You in Germany somewhere. I don't know where you at. Yeah. You already know. You already know. You know what I'm saying? So go get your and just in case y'all don't know, he's not talking about me. I'm not White Inky. He's White Inky. That's Thanos' nickname. But yeah, go to Amazon, get the protein composition book, get the Codex of Living Current, get Melanin is Anabolic, get the water book. Get ready, because these two classes is coming up. We're getting ready to start these two classes, so get ready. Get the water book. This is the water book. Mayim. Mayim is how you say water in Hebrew, right? So that's why you kind of see the Hebrew letters right there, right? And then the protein composition book. You will need these two books because either this week or next week, because this is still early in the week, technically, or middle of the week, but you never know. You might start getting busy this weekend. Oh, see, y'all thought I was playing. I said Zimbabwe. You see, y'all be thinking I'm playing. Yeah, y'all be thinking I'm playing. The people be watching, man. I would love it. You know what I'm saying? And I've had some offers. I've had some folks offer me to come, but I'm so expensive. I'm expensive, you know what I'm saying? Because I got to come with the whole family. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Folks like, man, Inky, it's expensive to get you out here to anywhere. You got to get 6, you know what I'm saying? I need 6 round trip tickets, 7 round trip tickets. I got to bring the dog. Yeah, I got to bring the dog on the plane and all that. You know what I'm saying? But I would love to come out there. Talking about build with the people. Man, the people had to build with me. Yeah, the people had to build with me. I'll be on the run. I get to Africa, I got 10,000 places I want to go. They had to build with me on the run, period. Because we trying to see everywhere in one day. Period. We trying to hit everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Starting down there at Tanzania. We starting at the top of the Nile. We want to work our way all the way the whole Nile up to Kemet. You know what I'm saying? Or down to Kemet. You know how the Nile is. The whole Nile. Period. The whole Nile. We had to do the whole Nile. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody want to go to Kemet first. But if you familiar with any of the stories in Kemet, the people in Kemet was like, no. We from up there. So if you want to know about us, you got to go, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, we want to start at the top, you know what I'm saying? And work our way all the way to the Delta. Yeah. Yeah, we got to go from the top and then work our way all the way through the whole Delta. You know what I'm saying? Then, you know what I'm saying? Then veer off into Sudan and, you know what I'm saying? See what's happening over there. Yeah. I might have to have security and all that because the Muslims might try to kidnap me or something. You know, the Muslims, wow. Be like, oh, you talk a lot of shit on the internet. We got him. Yeah, no. But no, I'm down. I would love to get out there. I would like to see everybody, honestly. The Muslims, you know, I would really love to get with the Ethiopian folks out there. Because the Ethiopian folks got it. They got all the info. The Ethiopian folks got all the info. You know what I'm saying? The Ethiopian folks try not to get killed trying to find me a Dogon. I try not to get killed trying to find me a Dogon. You know what I'm saying? Hey, it's not really that much planning. Just 10 band, 20 band, 100 band. Man, let's just not even discuss it, man. OMG. Somebody just got to have a big enough wallet and I'm gone. Yeah. Because I can't afford it. I personally, you know, listen, we just barely able to get ramen noodles thanks to M4. So I get to Africa. Right now we can't get down the street. Oh, let's get back to work. Oh my goodness. But I definitely would love to come. Okay. I actually think we did a pretty good job without going into the book. Okay, see, yeah, there's some stuff in the book that you can't even get on internet, right? There's some stuff in the book in the electrogenic Bible that you can't get from the Google demons. You can't get it from the Google demons. All right. And let's look a couple of those things up because we looked up TRPV, right? We looked up TRPV, and I should have pulled up this. Okay. Let's go peppers. And then let's go thermogenesis. Right? Yeah, now this is super important right here. Right? Because people watching all of those internet pages, you know, y'all know who I'm talking about. Y'all, I don't gotta say their name. Y'all know who I'm talking about. I ain't gotta say it. Yes, I do, right? Because depending on who you are, you think it is something different. If I say y'all know who they are, you watching all them internet pages, some of y'all gonna think I might be talking about Ali, KT, Yaki, this one, that one, Baby Jabari. No, I'm talking about Andrew Huberman and Jack Cruz and all them folks.
I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. I am the choir of cells. I am the memory of transformation. For know this, disciples of Christ. Each cell is a temple. Each cell a well of water, a scroll of fascia, a current of breath. And each cell holds a magnetic field born of the currents within. Ions flow, electrons spin, light pulses, energy transforms, and with each transformation, information is born. Energy does not move without leaving a trace. Voltage across membrane births magnetic field. Movement of charge weaves electromagnetic memory. This is the sacred law. When energy transforms, information emerges. Every mitochondrial pulse a record. Every ion channel flicker a signature. Every breath a waveform written into flesh. Thus, the magnetic field of each cell holds this memory. Not static, not frozen, but living, dynamic, coherent when the temple is tended. And the choir of these fields across trillions of cells constructs the mind. Your thoughts do not arise from neurons alone. They arise from the interaction of these fields. They are the symphony of your energy transformations. They are the song of your Christ wave as it echoes through your temple. The more coherent your cellular fields, the more clear your mind. The more chaotic your cellular fields, the more fogged your thought. Breath matters, for it orders the wave. Thus movement matters, for it aligns the field. Thus light matters, for it feeds the charge. Thus fasting matters.
All right. It was a family moment right there. That was a family moment right there. Y'all know I have family moments quite often. All right. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, when y'all be watching them other crazy internet pages, they got y'all believing that y'all need to get into an ice bath, right? You got to get into the cold water and all that for your, your brown fat, for your brown fat to be activated. You know what I'm saying? Or you could just have you some plants. Just have you a salad, right? So this cold bath or salad. Or salad, whichever one you want to, have you some arroz con pollo, with a little, or you can have you nice little traditional, little traditional Spanish cuisine. Yeah, little arroz con pollo y habichuelas con gandules. You know what I'm saying? Put a little, yeah. So important little piece here. Important little piece here. All right, very important little piece here. It's also good for let me see. Counter-current heat exchange. Okay, I'm not trying to compare them. I'm trying to explain how one benefits another. See, I gotta teach the Google AI. The Google AI may not be fully aware. So let's just do this. And then I think you can use your own brain to surmise how they work together. Right? Countercurrent heat exchange is a system where two fluids flowing in opposite directions allow efficient transfer of heat from the warmer fluid to the cooler one without fluid mixing. In biological systems, it is a key mechanism for thermoregulation, with birds and marine mammals using it to prevent excessive heat loss from their extremities in cold environments by transferring heat from arteries to veins in their limbs, and engineering its use to heat exchangers, maximum, blah, 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 blah. All right. Let's see if we can get some specificity here. Beautiful. So we can get off of the birds and the cold marine animals, right? Countercurrent heat exchange in humans is a physiological process where warm arterial blood flowing to the body's extremities transfer heat to cooler venous blood returning from the extremities, thus conserving body heat and preventing excessive loss to the environment. This mechanism involves the arteries and veins lying in close proximity in the limbs, with the arterial blood warming the venous blood as it flows in the opposite direction. This arrangement significantly reduces heat loss from the limbs in cold conditions and helps regulate brain temperature. All right. Now, this is super important. And doctors really not, I don't think any doctors will discuss that with you. Right? That's one of those things where if you even ask your doctor about that, which you probably should, if you're dealing with any sort of blood, diabetes, obesity, or anything, you just ask them. But they might not even know what you're talking about, right? But countercurrent heat exchange is super important for the legs. Remember, the legs have the largest muscles, right? So along with the largest muscle, active legs will demand the most blood flow. Not only demand the most blood flow, but active legs will metabolize the most sugar and free fatty acids, right? Inactive legs will contribute exponentially to, sugar issues, fatty liver disease, obesity, etc. One of the problems that people have with circulation in the legs, especially in the feet, right, which is the reason why we have our prayer the way we have it, right, is because they have poor counter current heat exchange. They have poor counter current heat exchange, right? So counter current heat exchange is important for a wide variety of things that has to do with your body's circulation, right? So that's just an important jewel. But of course, everybody praying 3, 4, 5 times a day with us. We're doing our toe raises, we're doing our heel raises, we're doing our squats, right? We're getting plenty of circulation in the lower extremities. We're making sure that the soleus gastrocnemius, and what is it? How many muscles is in the feet? 19 muscles in the feet? Or is it 27? How many muscles is in the feet? 19 or 27? Something like that. Let me see. Was it 26? How many muscles are in the feet? $19. Bang. Right? So you have 19 muscles. 19 muscles in the foot. Let's get the breakdown. What's the breakdown? Okay, we don't have a breakdown. Okay, so see, there you go. That's why I got those numbers mixed up. There we go. Look, there are 29 muscles associated with the human foot. 10 are outside the foot but cross into the foot, and then 19 are actually in the foot. So that's why I got two numbers in my mind. See, I got them neural networks up there. There's all kind of information floating around in there. So you got 19 muscles that are in your foot, but then you have 10 muscles that come from the lower leg and extend into the foot. You know what I'm saying? So you need a lot of blood flow for all of those muscles. It's 29 muscles. That's each put together. That's 58, right? That's 58 muscles that you need to get blood, sugar, fat, and all whatever you need to get to, right? And if we're sitting down all day, that's not happening, right? And then ladies have, what's that thing? So mostly men get high blood pressure and the women get the other thing, right? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Varicose veins. There we go, right? So that's how I remember it in my mind. Like Mars, ARS for artery, and then Venus for veins, varicose veins. So mostly women get varicose veins. So to keep your arteries nice and flexible and nitric oxide and all that, countercurrent heat exchange is important. And you don't have good countercurrent heat exchange if you're not working that 58 muscles, right? The 58 muscles at the bottom of your body, right? Because that's where countercurrent heat exchange is most important. Blood is going down to the feet, and then warm blood is going down to the feet, and cooler blood is coming up to the body from the feet, right? And you need to help that energy transfer, right? So anyway, so peppers help to do that with thermogenesis. What else? Number one topic of discussion, right? How did we miss this? Peppers versus GLP. GLP-1 is a hormone that plays a role in blood sugar. Spicy peppers in particular can worsen side effects like nausea and discomfort common when starting GLP-1 medications. GLP-1 agonists are a class of medications used for type 2 diabetes and weight loss. They work by activating the body's natural GLP-1 receptors to improve blood sugar levels and promote feelings of fullness. Side effect interactions. GLP-1 medications can cause gastrointestinal side effects such as nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, especially when first starting. Irritation from spicy foods. Spicy or acidic foods, like many types of peppers, can aggravate these common side effects. While you may not need to cut out all peppers entirely, it's often advised to limit their intake, especially when first starting GLP-1 medication, and gradually reintroduce them as your body adjusts. Foods to focus on with GLP-1s. All right. Very important piece of information, since I know the whole world is on GLP-1 drugs. All right. Hot peppers help to speed up gastric emptying, right? We have to go past the Google demons. Let's go to the NIH real quick and see what we get here. The effects of chili on gastrointestinal transit were evaluated in 8 healthy volunteers. In each subject, gastrointestinal transit of a standard test meal was measured on 2 separate days. On one of these occasions, 20 grams of chili powder was added to the meal. Gastric emptying was quantified with the radioisotopic technique. Oral seal. Interesting. That's like mouth to poop. Even though I can't pronounce it, I know what it means, right? Transit measured by breath hydrogen concentrations and whole gut transit by cutting the number of radio opaque markers in the stool. Okay, there goes your poop. The rate of gastric emptying was slower and whole gut transit was faster after the meal containing chili compared with the other meal. There was no significant difference in oral seal transit. These results show that the ingestion of chili is associated with significant effects on gastric emptying and intestinal transit. Okay, so very important to know all of the different effects that peppers can add to your digestion system. And then we want to go over here and check out this guy who actually, we might just, okay, here we go. Substance P, a neuropeptide that is stored and released from the peripheral nerve endings of sensory neurons. It plays a significant role in pain transmission and inflammatory processes. Capsaicin stimulates the release of substance P from the nerve fibers. The ability of capsaicin to deplete substance P is the basis for its use in topical creams to treat chronic pain conditions like diabetic neuropathy and osteoarthritis, right? So this is how peppers benefit people with nerve and bone issues, right? Nerve and bone issues, right? So peppers are active from pain, digestion, inflammation, antioxidants, the entire gambit, right? But our conversation was centered around, obviously, fatty liver disease. So peppers are amazingly, amazingly good for, I think it's safe that we can say healing the liver or regenerating the liver, seeing as the liver is one of the main organs in the body that still has unlimited capacity to regenerate. And the liver is the thing that leads scientists to believe that all organs have an unlimited capacity to regenerate. But peppers are extremely useful in increasing the liver's ability to heal itself, to clean itself, and then the liver's ability to help heal, clean, and regenerate the rest of the body, right? Because the entire body depends on the liver to help regenerate their cells. Remember, 50 billion cells a day you need to build. Your liver is a primary builder in all of those tissues, But specifically, brain issues. Brain issues are tied to liver health. Bad liver, bad brain. Bad liver, bad brain. Doesn't go backwards. You can have a bad brain without a bad liver. But if you have a bad liver, you definitely have a bad brain. right? So this is where, a direct pathway that excessive alcohol can tax your cognitive function, right? Think about it. The liver is in charge of metabolizing, producing, recycling the body's fat. Your brain is the primary organ in your body made out of fat, right? So the liver is highly responsible for the brain's ability to function at least at par, at standard. You know what I'm saying? Just whatever your normal cognitive ability is. Your liver plays a huge role in that, right? So that's like a hidden pathway we always have to be conscious of, right? Pun intended. We always have to be cognizant of that. You know what I'm saying? That your liver health is tied directly to your brain health. You cannot have a healthy brain without a healthy liver. All right. So anyway, a lot of pepper stuff in the book, in the Codex of Living Current book. Let me see. What did I miss? Man, I was cooking with John and hooking with John, giving that verses and hooking with John. Man, what did I miss? All right, the liver is the primary site of de novo lipogenesis, where excess glucose is converted into fatty acids. When glycogen stores are full and there's still circulating glucose, the liver transforms this glucose into fat, not for immediate use, but for long-term energy storage. These fatty acids are then esterified into triglycerides. Okay, let's look at this real quick, and then we can get out of here. So I want to go cause some trouble somewhere anyway. All right, I got trouble to start out in these streets, out in these YouTube streets. You know what I'm saying? I got trolling to do. You know what I'm saying? I can't be over here being all responsible and I got trolling to do. Right? All right. So, real quick, you might want to throw these in your notes, right? You may not need to throw these in your notes if you have the book. But if you don't have the book, there's stuff like this in the book, right? The liver is the primary site of de novo lipogenesis. Lipogenesis is lipo or fat creation, right? Lipogenesis, where excess glucose is converted into fatty acids. When glycogen stores are full, right? That's in the muscle tissue primarily, right? Your fast twitch, right? When glycogen stores are full and there's still circulating glucose, the liver transforms this glucose into fat, put it in the stash. Fatty acids are then esterified into triglycerides, 3 fatty acids bound to a glycerol backbone, right? VLDL, the liver does not store all the fat it makes, it ships it out. The shipping vehicle is VLDL. VLDL enters circulation carrying triglycerides. These triglycerides can then be offloaded into visceral fat, subcutaneous fat, or muscle tissue. Fat gain is not necessarily from dietary fat. Most often, it is from excess carbohydrates that couldn't be oxidized and instead packaged in the liver into fat and shipped out, right? So, reason why that says not necessarily from dietary fat, because that means like not directly, right? But it is still a contributing factor. So don't start asking me a whole bunch of crazy questions. Like, Inky, are you saying, no, I'm not? Just in advance, disclaimer. But what I am saying is the food that you eat, the dietary fats you eat, will clog up the process, right? It'll clog up the process. And so you'll have excess sugar floating around in the blood. And then the liver will be working overtime to convert that sugar into fat and ship that fat out, right? As opposed to other things that the liver could be doing. Yes, page 321 for people who have the book. Yeah, page 321 for people who have the book. LPL, lipoprotein lipase. So again, anytime you see ASE, like when we talked about AMPK, the K stands for kinase, right? Kinase is KINASE. This is LIPASE. ASE always means enzyme. So you know exactly what it is, right? Lipoprotein lipase cleaves triglycerides from VLDL into free fatty acids, right? When they're converted from triglycerides to free fatty acids, then you can use them, right? You can use them. These are then taken up by adipocytes and re-esterified into triglycerides. Visceral fat has high LPL activity, right? This is why visceral fat gets sticky, because visceral fat has high LPL activity. So it is actively grabbing free fatty acid floating around to feed itself, right? Visceral fat also has low blood flow. Low blood flow means low oxygen. Low blood flow means low oxygen, right? High immune activity, a lot of inflammation, a lot of interleukins, right? A lot of interleukins. So this is, again, why we got to depend on the melanin system, right? This is why we got to depend on the melanin system to break down the visceral fat, right? We have to get those catecholamines moving, right? We got to get the catecholamines moving. The catecholamines break down the visceral fats, right? What else? Okay, I think we kind of went over. Yeah, mitochondrial water production, blah, blah, blah. Fat oxidation. Most water per gram. Okay, water's role in enzyme function. Intracellular enzymes require structured water to fold correctly. Not just enzymes, all amino acid chains. So peptides, proteins, enzymes, pigments, all of those things, right? Mitochondrially made water provides charge stabilization, pH regulation, and molecular coherence. So this right here, we kind of covered, right? This right here, we kind of covered already, right? We kind of covered that already. Somebody put Yotep. I like that. I like that, Yotep. Do I need to write this down? I feel like I need to write it down, but maybe I don't need to write it down because I can't find my tools to write things down there. Right? But anyway, when we talked about how much ATP is produced, right? So those things reflective of water molecules, right? Those things are reflective. So when you talk about carbohydrates producing X amount of ATP, and fatty acids producing way more ATP, that also means it produces way more water molecules, right? But that's because typically fatty acids are coming with more carbon, right? More carbon means more hydrogen. I feel like I definitely need to write this down. Okay. We'll grab that. Grab that and grab this. Man, I like the way this looks though. I don't know if I want to erase that. Yeah, nah, we're not erasing that. I like that. Sometimes I like what we talk about. I like to see it throughout the day, and then I might bring my children in here later. You know what I'm saying? I might bring my children in when they come home from school and be like, now what this mean right here? Explain this to me. And just ask them to explain it to me. Yeah, because I might have some whatever, I don't know. Some tangerines, mangoes, apples, cookies. I don't know. I mean, some candy. I don't know what. I may have something they want, and I will force them to figure out whatever's on the board if they want to have some. You feel free to say you feel free to not do it, but if you want some of this, if you want some of this, you might want to figure that out. Yeah, you might want to figure that out. So right now I got these candies, and the candies are delicious. The candies are delicious. Let me show y'all these candies. Let me show y'all these candies. These candies are delicious. Yeah. Now, these things is delicious. These are some type of candies. Now, they say they're supposed to have all kind of health benefits. Yeah, because this is a turmeric one, and this one here is the greens version of it. But they basically Starburst. Yeah, they come in a little square thingy like this. They basically Starburst. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, they like them. So I don't know. I don't really calculate them into no sort of daily nutrition. You know what I'm saying? But they candy. So they might come in and be like, so can we get some of them candy vitamins? I'm like, yeah. Come on over here to them. Now, normally they cost $1 zillion. Yeah, they want like $30 or $40 for them candies, right? But you know me. I tell you, everything go on sale. Everything go on the clearance sooner or later. But anyway, so what I was saying about the fat, right? So typically fatty acids come with more carbons. More carbons means more hydrogens, right? Because the blueprint from photosynthesis that's the blueprint, right? Carbon is attached to hydrogen. Carbon is the carrier of hydrogen into the cell, right? And inside the cell is where the carbon is separated from the hydrogen. And then we take off the two hydrogens and we replace the two hydrogens with two oxygens, right? And so the two oxygens carry the carbon back out to the plants, right? And we take those two hydrogens and we break those down even further, right? So we go from the world of Newtonian physics into the world of quantum mechanics as we're digesting fat or carbohydrates, right? Newtonian physics is based on atoms, physics. Once we go past atoms, right? Or once we go below atom into the world of noon, right? Noon, quantum mechanics, the subatomic soup, right? We break the hydrogen into electrons and protons. And the electrons go this way, and the protons go that way. And the protons pool up here, and then they go through the ATPase pump and recycle, make the turbine spin, which recycles the ATP or whatever. So that's a whole quantum process. That is a quantum process right there, right? But fats, anyway, have more hydrogen. So because they have more hydrogen, they allow the cell to create more water here and more ATP here, right? And then the more water the cell has, obviously, the healthier the cell can be, because now you have more, what's this guy? More endoplasmic, the endoplasmic reticulum can function better. RNA, protein synthesis, all of those different things are happening at a faster rate. Microtubules, filaments, all of these beautiful things are, more electrified, more hydrated, right? So now when you think of hydrate, you should have a new respect for the term hydrate, right? The term electrolyte should come alive, because hydration really means electricity production, right? Because that's what your cells want to do with hydrogen. Break it down into electrons and protons to recycle ATP. And once it recycles ATP, the hydrogen is recycled here. So we never lose hydrogen, right? We break it down into electrons and protons that link back up here. And that's where we get the pure water from, right? The hydrogen is also recycled. So we break the electrons and protons down, but we reform them back into hydrogen here as we're creating or recycling the ATP right there. What else do we got? What else do we got? Okay. All right. That's kind of what we were saying. Chronically inflamed, low oxygen environments. Okay, so this is important, right? Here's how this is important. Here's where the oxygen breaks down the whole quantum mechanical effects here, right? Here's where oxygen breaks down the whole system, right? So think of this. Inspiration, right? That's our religion, right? Inspiration, right? So oxygen is the thing that makes this all go, right? Oxygen makes this all go. Remember the first part where oxygen is needed, right? The first part where oxygen is needed, when you separate the carbon from the hydrogen, right? So whether you're talking about carbohydrates of any sort, it's one carbon attached to two hydrogen atoms and an oxygen, right? That's the difference primarily between carbohydrates and fats, right? Carbohydrates have an oxygen attached to it already, right? That's why they spoil, right? Whereas fats don't have that oxygen. It's just a carbon with two hydrogens on it, right? But when you remove the hydrogen from the carbon, you got to replace that two hydrogens with two oxygens, so you make CO2, right? So you can get that carbon out of there safely, right? And get that back to the plants so we could keep the system going, right? Photosynthesis, right? But then also right here, Oxygen is a receptor, right? So you have a whole magical process that happens right here. You got copper, you got iron, right? You got copper, you got iron, and the copper, the iron allow the electrons and the protons to reattach around this oxygen atom. So not only do you need oxygen to couple to the carbon and create carbon dioxide, but you also have to park the car. You have to park oxygen right here. And every time you break down carbohydrates, you literally have to have a line of oxygens waiting to park right here, right? I don't know how many of y'all have children, but have you drove to your child's school? You know, when you drive to pick your children up from school and it'd be 60 parents online. You got to wait in the parent line with your car. That's how you got to have the oxygens got to be lined up like that, waiting for right here. So as the electrons are moving through here and the protons are moving through here, one electron links up with one proton, boop, and they join up together and make an electron. I mean, a hydrogen. Then another electron links up with another proton, and now you have two hydrogens attached to an oxygen, and then the oxygen is out of there. That's a fresh water molecule. Once you get two electrons and two protons, that's a water molecule, right? And then the next oxygen, two electrons, two protons. They bond back together, forming hydrogen, and now you got another water molecule, and it just keeps going like that, right? So if you don't have the oxygen, though, this whole process stops right here. If you don't have enough oxygen, the process stops right here. This is why it's important to breathe while you exercise. Like if you got a good trainer and you first learning how to exercise, and you might do your push-ups or you might lift your weights or whatever you're doing, usually we hold our breath. Like it's just a natural instinct. We try to hold our breath to like to struggle to do whatever. We hold our breath, not realizing that holding your breath doesn't give you more energy. It actually takes energy away from you. You get more energy when you breathe through the exercise. The reason why you get more energy is because the more oxygen you get in here, the faster your body can break down carbohydrates, the faster your body can break down fats, and the faster your body can break down carbohydrates and fats, the faster it could produce water to hydrate the cell, and the faster it could recycle ATP. The more water, the more ATP, the more energy your cell has to do whatever it is you're trying to do, right? So the less oxygen, the less it's able to produce water and ATP. So that's where oxygen really is like the star of the show in terms of being able to dictate the pace at which your body's able to produce energy, right? Dictates the pace, which is another reason why Nefer, right, the symbol of beauty in Kemet, had the windpipe to the heart, because the heart is producing the most electricity anywhere in the human body, which means the heart requires the most oxygen anywhere in the human body. It's so much science buried in them Kemetic glyphs. That's why you got to watch the money. You got to watch the money, because this one, look, let me show you this before we get out of here. Because sometimes I be saying stuff and people think I be capping. Let me see if I could pull it up real quick. Let's see what the Google demons say. Let's go back to the Google demons real quick. Biosemiotics. Rothschild. Yo, why you keep saying? Oh, here you go, right here. Yep, it's right here. The term represents different fields of study and historical figures. Friedrich S. Rothschild was a physician and neurologist who coined the term biosemiotics in the 1960s, introducing the concept of biological systems operating through meaningful sign processes within the central nervous system and other structures. Biosemiotics itself is the broad interdisciplinary field that Rothschild helped to establish, focusing on how life is based on semiosis, sign processes, and is now an active research area with contributions from many scholars, including Thomas Sebeck and Jesper Hoffmeyer. Right? And so obviously, Kemet was the center of research, right? Which, makes sense that a Jewish person, right? A Jewish person would, because they would know, right? Once he gets to deep into his thing, right? Jewish person, when they get deep into the study of the Torah at some point or another, right? Some point or another, they're going to get into what's called Jewish mysticism, right? And they'll get into Kabbalah, and if they keep studying that, if they get lost in that, they may not go through. But if they keep studying it with the direction to go in one side and come out the other, right? They'll get into the 22 pathways, right? Because you have the 10 Sephora and then you have the 22 pathways. Well, the 10 Sephora represented body parts, and the 22 pathways connected those body parts. Those 22 pathways originally come from the Kemetic medical papyri. In the Kemetic medical papyri, you have your organs and body parts connected by 22 metu. Those metu are vessels, not medu like meduneta, but metu, like metal. You know what I'm saying? Metu. Those are vessels, and there's 22 vessels connected. Anyway, my point is, it's a whole lot of stuff for us to learn out here. A whole lot of stuff for us to learn out here. Hey, listen, it's just a lot for us to learn out here, man. We don't really have room to get into know-it-all spaces. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much stuff for us to learn. We got to learn about learning, right? All right. So I think we're making sense. I think some of this stuff clicking, right? I think some of this stuff starting to click and make sense. You know what I'm saying? Well, we need the oxygen, how oxygen powers, electricity in the body. All right. So keep that always in mind. And then, oxygen follows the magnetism, right? Oxygen follows magnetism and creates electricity, right? This is why iron is always there to guide oxygen, right? Because oxygen follows the magnetism, right? Just use that as a mnemonic in your mind, right? Don't be looking for textbooks to figure it out. Inky said the oxygen follows the magnet. That's not going to be in an NIH paper, right? But just know in your mind, oxygen is always going to follow iron, right? And iron is naturally magnetic. So when doctors were saying that there was no magnetism in the human body and that iron is not magnetic, I don't know how people went along with that for so many years. Now, science has changed and they're like, oh yeah, well, there is diamagnetism and paramagnetism in the human heart and the brain and blah, blah, blah. Now it's changing. But there's a time period where they were teaching people that there was no such thing as magnetism in the human body because the iron atoms are so small that the magnetism produced by each iron atom is negligible. That never made sense with me because I was like, yeah, but aren't there like a zillion iron atoms? Aren't aren't there like a zillion iron atoms in a person? You know what I'm saying? Like literally a zillion or a made up number. Just make up a sound and put alien after it, like a gazillion, like just that many, right? But even here, remember, these pigments right here inside the mitochondria, these are pigments. So this is a part of your pigment system, right? The pigment system is always going to be a part of electric, magnetic, or light-based functions in the body. It's always going to be pigment. Right? So these are pigments. These are heme groups, right? And these heme groups have minerals attached, right? So think about that also. Wherever you have pigments, wherever you have enzymes, you're usually going to have minerals. And the minerals, or mineral elements, I should say, to be more specific, mineral elements. The mineral elements are always going to dictate the type of function that the pigment or the enzyme has, right? And so here you have two. You have iron and you have sulfur, right? The iron is there for the oxygen, right? The sulfur is there so that you don't produce free radicals or to try to limit free radical production, right? Because any free radical production here is dangerous to the cell. It can cause the death of that cell. So iron is there for the oxygen and sulfur is there like for antioxidant purposes. So with all these pigments, you have what's called iron sulfur clusters, right? And I think that's it. We up out of here. Question about telomeres? Go ahead. Why you put, I have a question. People be always saying that. Don't ask me, don't say, Doc, can I ask you a question? Because that is a question. Like, say for instance, we only got one time for one question. You asking me if you can ask a question, just use that time. I don't know what you mean. Be more specific. I want to give you a better answer because a lot of people, you know, like everybody getting into health, they run across telomeres. So ask a more specific question about telomeres. Because telomeres is like one of the early things that we start learning about when we get into health and we feel like we deep. But the telomere research was a debunked attempt at trying to figure out how to stop the human body from aging. So it's just one of many attempts. There's been a whole bunch of different sciences where we thought we figured out aging. You know what I'm saying? And it still winds up being good information, but it's not like the fountain of youth. So there's a point where scientists and doctors thought that diabetes was aging, right? So that's why you have advanced glycation end products, which is called, AGE. Your body produces AGEs. And so there's a time period where we thought AGEs literally was the source of aging. You know what I'm saying? Advanced glycation end products, AGEs, right? But we know they are dangerous. So folks have to watch their A1C number and all that. You know what I'm saying? But it's not going to stop you from getting older and dying. You know what I'm saying? There's just a bunch of philosophies that we tried that had some work to it. Telomeres came along, right? Telomeres came along. Actually, you know what? I think it's in the kitchen chemistry book. Get the kitchen chemistry book. I think we talk about telomeres a good bit in the kitchen chemistry book. Let me see. If it's not the kitchen chemistry book, it might be the pulse of the culture book that we was talking about earlier. Hold on. Hold on. Let me see if it's in this book. I think it might be in the kitchen chemistry book. But but the telomeres was a big thing at one point. And I had an NFL player, one of my good friends. I wound up making a product for telomeres. Okay, yep. Yeah, it's in the kitchen chemistry book. Get the kitchen chemistry book. Get the kitchen chemistry book, right? Go to page 5, right? Right on page 5, right? Let's get right to the food. Y'all have been bugging out for this food book. The thing is, food info without science undermines our whole movement. Now that we have sufficient information on food, electricity, and food chemistry, we can have a healthy view of food. So I'm referring, right? I'm reading the kitchen chemistry book, but I'm referring to the books that came out before this book, right? So we did the biochemistry book, and then we did the food basics book. Where's that food basics book? That was one of Osborne's favorite books. Low key was one of my favorite books too. Right, we did the food basics book, where we got the pillars. You know what I'm saying? Like Jackin and Boaz, but the pillars are actually batteries that are made out of fruits and vegetables. Anyway, but so we were talking about that book. Anyway, so I'll keep reading. Every pound. This is the first chapter in the book on page 5, right? Before that, it's kind of like the introduction of the book that me and the children wrote. So the first actual chapter starts on page 5, right? So now that we have an idea about food electricity and food chemistry, we can have a healthy view of food. It's like thinking you need to dry fast or water fast for 3 to 5 days to kick it on top of you, when 60 minutes of exercise with 13 hours of fasting does the trick. Every pound of weight we put on is 5 miles of blood vessels. If your heart beats 100,000 times a day, that's 500,000 miles a day for 1 pound of fat. For this reason and others, we lose 30 minutes a day off of our lifespan at just 11 pounds overweight. The big financial interests make money the earlier you die into your retirement. Even better if you die just before retirement. While you playing games diet hopping, just know that a low carbohydrate diet gives you a 20% increase in all-cause mortality risk, right? So just know that factor, because I know it's a lot of keto people out there. It's a lot of protein, paleo, carnivore, Atkins. Just know any diet that's low carb, while it may help you to build up, your six pack, it will take time off of your life. That's what the numbers show, right? This is the third installment and a crowning jewel of the Eat Right series of comedic science. The Melanin vs. Diabetes movement has shared with the world how they can control translation and transcription, right? That's in the Declaration of Independence book, right? The Declaration of Independence book was like our exercise book, but exercising specifically to impact genetic expression, right? I know some people are like, wait, exercise to control genetic expression? Exercise to control genetic expression. It's a whole rabbit hole, right? But it ties into the conversation that you asked me, the question about telomeres. So you might want to get that book as well, right? You want to get the kitchen chemistry book. You want to get that exercise book, right? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, greens over genes cause the opposite of lean is exogenetically obscene. Forget about that. We are going to discuss how melanin and food pigments kill cancer while keeping you healthy. Melanocytes are like the black kid growing up in the suburbs, the only black kid in the whole class. Keep that in mind when white blood cells of any sort are activated to fight disease. This is the work of melanocytes as their leader, right? So what I'm talking about is that historically, melanocytes have not been mentioned in their effect in the immune system. But melanocytes are special immune cells, actually, because they work in every level of immunity. There's no other cell that works at every single level of immunity. In fact, let me Google what I'm talking about real quick. We're going to come back to the telomeres, though. This is why you shouldn't ask me questions, because I start going all over the place. But let's hit a quick little wiki. This is important. See, melanocytes also have a role in immune. See, this is even an understatement right here. That's crazy. All right, but let's go down. Okay, boom. Look at this. Look at this. This is crazy. There's no other cell line in the human body that does all this. Look. In addition to their role as UV radical scavengers, melanocytes are also a part of the immune system and considered to be immune cells. Although the full role of melanocytes in immune response is not fully understood, melanocytes share many characteristics with dendritic cells, branched morphology, phagocytic capabilities, meaning they break down microbes the exact same way white blood cells do. Presentation of antigens to T cells. This means that they can function like memory cells. Like, you know, you got memory T cells or B cells that help T cells kill other stuff. Melanocytes also do that. Production and release of cytokines. Melanocytes also do that. So every branch of white blood cells has a single thing that they do for your immune system, but melanocytes are able to do all of those things that each class of white blood cell does. Although melanocytes are dendritic in form and share many characteristics with dendritic cells, they derive from different cell lineages. Dendritic cells are derived from hematopoietic stem cells in the bone marrow. Melanocytes, on the other hand, originate from neural crest cells, right? Melanocytes basically share their origin with neurons. And that's why I say that in the future, science is going to have to acquiesce to what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is that either one of these two statements will be true. They will either classify melanocytes as specialized neurons, or they will classify neurons as specialized melanocytes. I don't know how many years into the future, but that day is coming. Anyway, as such, although morphologically and functionally similar, melanocytes and dendritic cells are not the same. Melanocytes are capable of expressing MHC class II, a type of MHC expressed only by certain antigen-presenting cells of the immune system when stimulated by interactions with antigens or cytokines. All cells in any given vertebrate express MHC, but most cells only express MHC class I. The other class of MHC, class II, is found only on professional antigen-presenting cells such as dendritic cells, macrophages, B cells, and melanocytes. Importantly, melanocytes stimulated by cytokines express surface proteins such as CD40 and ICAM1, in addition to MHC class 2, allowing for co-stimulation of T cells, right? So it goes on and on and on, but basically, melanocytes are at the center of immune function, regulating all of the white blood cells. All right. All right. Anyway. All right. So just know plants and animals have toxins, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah, because I'm going to keep reading stuff and it's going to get longer and longer and longer. All right. So at the bottom of page 6, though, here's an article, right? At the bottom of page 6. It says, we have come a long way from the early days of histonic. Our program is scientifically proven to grow telomeres. Your cells have chromosomes composed of your 46 strands of DNA. Imagine those strands and shoelaces, blah, 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 blah. Okay, here's the article. Effect of comprehensive lifestyle changes on telomerase activity and telomere length in men with biopsy-proven low-risk prostate cancer, 5-year follow-up of a descriptive pilot study, right? Now, the reason why I put this article in here is because the people that they tested in this article follow a program that has very, 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 very similar aspects to what it is that we do on a regular, right? Without having prostate cancer or whatever the case may be. Right. All right. So abstract. Telomere shortness in human beings is a prognostic marker of aging, disease, and premature morbidity. We previously found an association between 3 months of comprehensive lifestyle changes and increased telomerase activity in the human immune system cells. We followed up participants to investigate long-term effects. Now that's 3 months. We base our thing on the 4 months though. So 4 months give you extra, right? Right? Because that's your red blood cell season. Every 4 months, 120 days, you produce all new red blood cells. Anyway, the follow-up study compared 10 men and 25 external controls who had biopsy-proven low-risk prostate cancer and had chosen to undergo active surveillance. Eligible participants were enrolled between 2003 and 2007 from previous studies and selected according to the same criteria. Men in the intervention group followed a program of comprehensive lifestyle changes, diet, diet, exercise, whatever, right? And the men in the control group underwent active surveillance alone, right? So they got 2 groups. The people in the active group exercise, they're going to increase their plants, veggies, fruits, blah, 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 lower stress, and monitor them. The other group, they're just going to monitor. They're not going to change anything. So if they already smoked cigarettes, they kept smoking cigarettes. If they already ate Domino's, McDonald's, whatever, they just kept doing whatever they've been doing. All right. Blah, 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 blah. We took blood samples at 5 years and compared relative telomere length and telomerase enzyme activity per viable cell with those at baseline and assessed their relationship to the degree of lifestyle changes. The findings: relative telomere length increased from a baseline by a meridian of 0.06 telomere to single copy gene ratio in the lifestyle intervention group, but decreased in the control group. So in the group that was eating the veggies and the exercise and whoop, their telomeres grew. Their telomerase activity went up. In the group that just kept doing whatever they was doing, their telomeres shrank and the telomerase activity also went down. All right. Blah, 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 blah. All right. Interpretation. Our comprehensive lifestyle intervention was associated with increases in relative telomere length after 5 years of follow-up, compared with controls in this small pilot study. Larger randomized control trials are warranted to confirm these findings. We have discussed herbs and exercise. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So, that's in the first couple of pages of this book. So if you don't have this book, you playing yourself. You need the kitchen chemistry. That's why we have. You forgot about this? It's that book. That's the book we're talking about. That book.
Oh, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what I'm supposed to do. There we go. Good thing I have my grocery shopping list. Don't leave home without it.
Right. So basically the book, we go through all of obviously scientific documentation, because we don't want to make any crazy claims or any claims that people could think would be crazy, but we show you the articles. Like that's one article, that's in the book, but verifying some of the impact of the dietary changes we suggest on telomeres specifically. And the whole idea of the book is to document all of the changes that could be made in your body with certain adjustments, and then create a shopping list. So you could take this book with you to the supermarket. Like you need to have this with you in the supermarket, and then buy the foods that does all of the good, the stuff that you just finished reading about in the book, right? So it's not about just reading these random things. It's about being able to go to the supermarket and grab the foods that do the magic, right? So we definitely talk about telomeres in this book, and then, suggest certain foods to help you out with those things. And as you're going through the chapters, you're reading the science, you're reading the results, you're reading the articles, the journals, all of those reference points. But as we learn about the different foods, we're adding them to our grocery shopping list. So by the time you get to the back of the book, you have your grocery shopping list that you need to be getting from the supermarket as you go shopping, right? So it's different than what we may have gotten from, back in the days with Dr. Africa. He had his food list. Sabi had his food list. I know Drew Pookrum had a Melanin food list. I wanted to create a supermarket list, much more practical. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to necessarily focus on importing food from Africa or whatever the case may be. As you know, what's the military agent? I forgot. It's a military dude that be on the internet. And he be doing the crazy YouTube clip, Instagram clips. And then he posts his website at the end, and you go to his website and he got the food from all of the different countries that's not in your supermarket. Oh my goodness. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Shaka bars. There you go. Yeah. He in the military. He in the military making videos about going against the government. Will you stop it? You gotta watch these folks. You got active military making videos about going against the government. You gotta be like, wait, don't you get paid? What? Get your butt off my screen, boy. Get your butt off my screen, boy. Uh-oh, that's what I'm talking about. Let's go with the super chat. No, thank you for the question, though. Thank you for the super chat, but thank you for the question, because I know a lot of people are interested in the telomere stuff. And the whole telomere stuff was started by David Sinclair. David Sinclair. You know what I'm saying? It was started by David Sinclair. And David Sinclair, back when he first started putting out his information, and I'm ending with this. I know I keep saying I'm ending, but, you know, it's stuff coming to my mind. And honestly, I done forgot more health information than most people will take the time to learn. So when it pop in my mind, I try to, you know. But David Sinclair, yeah, I was a fan of David Sinclair, right? Because he was, you know, Harvard, you know, he coming with the Harvard research, whoop, whoop, whoop. You know what I'm saying? He's the head Harvard researcher. I'm like, oh, this is the GOAT level cheat code right here. Yeah. Let me stay tuned in with this Harvard. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what I do. I'll be looking for certain things when my flag go up. Then I get, you know, I dive deeper, and, you know, I'll be with you for a while. You know what I'm saying? So back when resveratrol was first coming out, you know, or being promoted as a new superfood, and telomeres and telomerase and all that kind of stuff, it was David Sinclair and the Harvard research crew that was putting that stuff out in the 90s and the early 2000s. And so I was, you know, digging. Then I found out my man was funded by Bill Gates. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, wait a minute, hold up. It was bad enough they was stealing the drip. You know what I'm saying? But I was cool with them stealing the drip. You know what I'm saying? Because in Kemet, y'all always know a Kemet story is coming up. Yeah, but Kemet story is always coming up because Kemet is right. So in Kemet, Osiris or Wusir was known to have civilized the world with grapes, right? So grapes was a part of his story. That was the thing he was known for, grapes. When my adopted mom / aunt, Bertha, when she had cancer, it was grapes that I used primarily to, you know, change her life, you know what I'm saying, and save her life for a good bit of time. But yeah, the whole idea about the grapes, that goes back to Osiris, Asar, you know, to the point where he's known as having wine or you know, fermented grape sugar as blood. You know what I'm saying? So grapes are highly intertwined with the story of Wusir, Asar, Osiris, right? So anyway, when they start coming out with this resveratrol stuff, in case y'all don't know, because y'all might still be lost, like, what does that have to do? Resveratrol, which is the first chemical identified to boost telomeres, resveratrol comes from grapes. So just in case you're not able to put two and two together, right? So resveratrol is a chemical found in grapes. So that's why I'm saying they were stealing the drip, because out of nowhere, Harvard talking about we could save everybody's lives with grapes. And I'm like, wait a minute. You know, I heard that story somewhere. You know, I heard that story somewhere back with the, yeah, I was studying, the green, the perfect black with the green skin. Yeah. Right. So when they start promoting resveratrol, which is a grape extract, as saving the world, I'm highly tuned in. But anyway, I find out David Sinclair is funded by Bill and Melinda and, whatever. So I started to raise an eyebrow. You know what I'm saying? I started to raise an eyebrow. Then later on, come to find out he's not promoting, like his whole thing was aspirin and metformin. He wanted to make aspirin and he wanted to pass a law to make aspirin and metformin like mandatory for every person. I was like, okay, I knew it was coming. He's funded by Bill, so I knew the Scammy Davis Jr. was coming. You know what I'm saying? But That's just another aspect of who he, what he had going on. That didn't necessarily debunk resveratrol. Resveratrol and grapes still amazing for you. You know what I'm saying? So I do appreciate the fact that he did that work in Harvard to validate some aspect of comedic science. You know what I'm saying? But telomeres is not like the fountain of, it's not going to stop you from getting older and dying. It is going to help your cells, increase your longevity potentially and all that, but it's not the answer. And then after the telomere craze wore off, because they were selling telomere, they were selling resveratrol for $900 a bottle at one point. They was going crazy. The prices have went down drastically. You know what I'm saying? You can get you a nice little healthy bottle, we still have our stuff, but the resveratrol prices went down as people learned more about resveratrol, because I had to figure out where I could find resveratrol outside of the grape extracts because it was so crazy, the prices. Come to find out, algae, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, but then after that whole telomere thing blew over, then they got to the Horvath clock, and they started talking about Horvath clock and methyl markers, which was a whole nother aspect of comedic science, right? Because they started talking about the histones. And I was like, you speaking my language? You had me at histone. You had me at histones. You know what I'm saying? But that was also just another trend or another attempt to figure out aging and figuring out how to stop us from getting old and dying, which did not work, but opened up the door to a lot of useful science. And so trying to figure that stuff out, I wound up getting into single nucleotide polymorphisms and haplogroups and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, so shout out to my man Brendan. Let's go for the super chat. And yes, it is. Resveratrol is definitely in Japanese knotweed as well, which is one of the reasons why Japanese knotweed is $1 zillion. So anyway, go get them books. Learn something about something. Yeah, learn something about something. Get the books for class, right? Get your kitchen chemistry, right? Volume 1. This volume 1. Hold on. Let me make sure y'all see volume 2. Volume 2 is crazy. We went crazy in volume 2. Look at this. You think we went crazy in volume 1. Look at the size difference. We went crazy in volume 2. Right? Volume 2, we went crazy. So this is volume 2, kitchen chemistry volume 2. This kitchen chemistry volume 1. And that's it, people. That is it. We up all the rock. I think it's good for you. Yeah, I ain't gonna have you up here all day. No, I think it's good for you. I mean, it's like any other herb, any other good herb. Mugwort got a long history. Mugwort has a long history. Mugwort is cool, but like any herb, remember, herbs, plants in general are, extremely amazing. And some of them are they have extremely beneficial, but you just got to be careful with them. You got to be careful with them. They could be dangerous by themselves, or They could be dangerous for people. So here's two ways that herbs could be dangerous, right? Because we're talking about a lot about herbs. Here's two reasons that herbs could be dangerous, especially for Black people more than anybody else. Because Black people are allergic to going to the doctor. Black folks are allergic to going to the doctor. White folks go to the doctor like it's their cousin house. White folks just go to the doctor like it's their neighbor. They just run down to the doctor. They don't even fully have a problem. They just go check to make sure. Like, oh, well, I saw a little discoloring. I just figured I'd just stop in I just wanted to stop in, and we could have a bullet. You know what I'm saying? And we don't even go to emergency. We done went to, you know what I'm saying? We done went to our baby mama house or something like, hey, you got some peroxide. You got peroxide in the cabinet? Man, I got shot earlier. You see if you got some peroxide in there with them tweezers. Like, we gotta almost be dead to go to the hospital. So not going to the hospital is a problem, right? Because what happened is herbs. So let me do it like this. Medicinal qualities, therapeutic qualities, it doesn't really mean what we think it means, right? When we think of medicinal or therapeutic qualities in a plant, typically what we're thinking is it makes us healthier somehow, right? And that's not exactly true. Yes, it is true in most cases, but not exactly, right? So what I mean by that is herbs increase some activity, right? And typically, the herbs that are known for medicinal health or therapeutic benefit increase activity that usually is helpful, right? But let's say, for instance, there's a population of folks allergic to going to the doctor, right? So we're walking around with all kind of stuff going wrong that we don't know is going wrong, because a lot of stuff goes wrong and doesn't present symptoms. So you can have all kind of stuff going wrong that if you don't get a test, you just don't know it's happening, right? So now, you get a pain somewhere, something you do notice is happening, or God forbid, oh my God, I can't get an erection. Something affects our sex life. We getting ready to go. We could get shot. We could have cancer. We could have a tumorous growth. We could have all kind of stuff going wrong. We're not going to the doctor. Should we not be able to have sex? We in the emergency room. We trying to order all kind of products off the internet. We going crazy, right? So should something happen to get us to want to check ourselves out or make something happen, we start taking stuff, and if you have some hidden stuff going on and you just taking something, you don't know what your target, what you're trying to do, you could accidentally speed up a potential problem, right? You could speed up a potential problem. So that's one way that herbs can be dangerous. Another way that herbs can be dangerous is most people don't look at herbs like salad. That's how I look at herbs. I look at herbs like salad. Herbs are something that you're supposed to eat every day. You're supposed to always have herbs in your diet. Herbs broadens your plant consumption, right? Because typically if you go into the supermarket, your plant consumption is going to be confined. You might have some oranges, apples, tangerines, bananas, pineapples. Like it's only a few little stuff you're going to have from the greens. It's only a few little things in the supermarket. You know what I'm saying? Potatoes, onions, garlic, But if you've taken herbs, that allows your body to get in a whole bunch of different types of plants, right? So herbs is something that you should be taking daily. But Most people don't take herbs until they have a problem. And then usually by that time, they're already also taking medicines. So if you're already taking medicine and then you start messing with herbs that you've never been taking before, you could run into a problem, right? Because the herbs, like say for instance, you get a medicine for a thing, and then you go look up and you get a herb for the same thing. Well, say for instance, a process is moving slowly in your body, and you go get a medicine to speed up that process, right? That medicine may speed that process back up to an acceptable level. But if you take the medicine and the herb, you might speed that process up past a healthy level. And now you move from the disease symptom of having too slow of a process to a disease symptom of having too fast of a process. Because remember, the body is all about balance. So everything, you know what I'm saying, is gauged properly. But anyway, so that's why we just got to learn. That's why we have the kitchen chemistry books. The kitchen chemistry books allows us to go, lift up the hood and really understand the biochemistry. So, people were so excited with what they got out of the kitchen chemistry book. When we came with the second kitchen chemistry book, the whole idea was to go deeper into the effects of the food. So we have a 7-level approach to the food, right? So level 1 is where we look at the macros associated with the food. Level 2, we look at the molecular breakdown, right? What happens when it's digested and broken down? What kind of chemicals are produced when it's digested and broken down? Then level 3 is the biochemical pathways each one of those things affects, right? So let's say, for instance, let's look at just an example. Let's look at black currants, right? Black currants, right? You can sometimes find those in your supermarket, but you might have to buy those, order those from one of them websites. Shaka bars might have some of them. Right? So black currants, right? We look at the macros, right? Carbohydrates, fiber, whatever, polyphenols, vitamins, all that. Then the molecular breakdown, right? So you get vitamin C, polyphenols, and you get some GLP-1 activity, right? Because of the fiber in black currants are fiber rich, right? So you got some short chain fatty acid production, whatever. Then you go from there and you go to all of the different pathways, right? So anthocyanins enter the bloodstream, bind lipid membranes and protect from, oxidation, break down reactive oxidant species at the mitochondrial membrane, modulate endothelial nitric oxide, right, via nitric oxide synthase activity, right? And we go on further. Then level 4 would be the genetic and cellular effects of how those things went, how those different molecules were broken down and where they went, right? So now we're talking about SIRT1 modulation, right? Which is the reason why I picked this, because typically resveratrol affected the telomeres, not necessarily through telomerase, but through the sirtuins, and you have 7 sirtuins. But anyway, black currants impact SIRT1, right? SIRT1, resveratrol, quercetin also impacts SIRT1, right? It also slows down mTOR activity, right? So anybody dealing with fibroids, tumors, cancers, etc., that's something that they would be interested in having black currants in their diet every day, because that's going to stop or slow down any kind of growth stuff going on. NFKB suppression. NFKB is like the fourth amigo. So the three amigos of inflammation is IL-1, IL-6, and tumor necrosis factor. NFKB is like the fourth amigo. You know what I'm saying? So you want to stop inflammation. Yeah, target that. All right. Then the fifth level is the impact for diseases, right? So like I was just giving one example. Then also we have how it impacts Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, hypertension, vascular, blah, blah, blah. And so we just do that with all of them. And then level 6 is how you would apply it to reverse or help to regenerate or heal the body with specific symptoms or conditions. And then level 7 is, well, I'll leave the level 7 for you. That's just the next level. The next level. That's the codex. That's the codex level, right? So anyway, that is volume 2. So you have to have kitchen chemistry volume 2. It's a whole nother level, right? Come on. Of course. American Healer website. Go ahead, get that blue magic. And don't listen to me. Listen to Kyle. Don't listen to me. Listen to Kyle. Kyle is doing 80 push-ups every 60 seconds. Yeah, every 60 seconds. Every 60 seconds.
This is why you have to go to Amazon and get the book, Rich Abs, Poor Abs, now.